Welcome to Magny Cours for the second round of the 2022 Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS. After a scintillating pair of races at the opening round at Brands Hatch, the drivers should enjoy the extra space in which to go racing this weekend at this former home of the French GP, with greater scope for overtaking, especially into the Adelaide hairpin, where intense race action has always been a feature. Audi and Mercedes shared the honours in 2021. Second-generation French racer Aurélien Panis was frustrated at Brands Hatch when a slow pit stop cost him and teammate Patrick Niederhauser a top result. And the Santalok team will be looking to make amends on home ground.
It's always nice to be at home. I just love this track, to be honest. It's one of my favorites. So I hope we'll be on the pace, on the front. We'll see tomorrow, but everything looks okay. We start well the season in Brands Hatch. Also, we follow Santalok team, so I'm looking forward for the first quali tomorrow and for the races, because I think we can be strong, and I hope we'll be at the top.
Fanatec GT World Challenge Sprint champions for the past 2 years, the all-Belgian pairing of Dries van Toor and Charles Weerts racked up a pair of second places in round one. But this, along with their winning form in the opening endurance round, is enough to make them combined European series leaders.
We know that Brands Hatch is a good circuit for the Mercedes. And in Magny Cours, it's, I would say, a bit more even. So, yeah, hopefully we'll have a bit more chance to fight with them instead of being on the back foot. But, yeah, as you said, Brands Hatch, even though we were not the quickest, we could still manage to do 2 times second, which is super good for the championship. I think we were P1 and P2 here last year. So let's try to be double P1 this year.
French racer Jim Pla shared his Acodis ASP Mercedes with compatriot Jules Gounon at Brands Hatch, but Gounon is away on Intercontinental GT Challenge duty at Bathurst this weekend, so his place is taken by experienced Maximilian Goertz, who was Sprint Series champion as long ago as 2014.
We are quite confident. We had a good weekend in Brands Hatch with Jules. As you see, I have a new teammate for this event, Maxi. It's the first time that I met him, really cool guy, really easy to work with. So yeah, we are quite confident. We did pre-practice this morning. We struggled a bit with the setup, but we are working on it, and I think we will do a good job this weekend.
Third place and then a dominant win in the second race at Brands Hatch put the long-standing partnership of Raffaele Marciello and Timo Bogusławski into the points lead after the first of the season's 5 sprint rounds, with Marciello looking to repeat his peerless form here in France.
The season is still long. For sure we start quite well in Brands Hatch. We start well also this morning in here in Magny Cours. The car is great. Timo is doing really good. So I mean the expectations are quite high, but for sure there is the car of Dries and Charles is quite strong. There is the car of Jim is quite strong, so it will be tough, but we try our best. It's not an easy track. It's quite grippy, but it's easy to lose the grip. So it's quite challenging. Some parts the gravity is quite close, like in T3. So for sure it's not easy for some people.
Surprise winners of the first of the races at Brands Hatch, giving Ferrari its first Sprint Cup win since 2015. This Silver Cup pairing of Ulysses Depot and Pierre-Alexandre Jean is clearly heading for great things.
You know, it was a surprise also for us. We were feeling ready before the start of the championship. We construct the season correctly with 5 Corsair, working good with the engineers, with the mechanic. Now we have to keep our head down, keep working, and yeah, I hope it will be a nice weekend also on my home soil. They have a lot of sponsors and friends coming tomorrow, so I hope to be good tomorrow in front of them.
Sky Tempesta Racing has changed this year from racing a Ferrari to a Mercedes. Eddie Cheever III and his teammate Chris Froggatt are learning as they go in their pursuit of championship honours in the Silver Cup here at Magny Cours.
Well, hopefully it's going to be better this weekend. We are really struggling still with performance. So yeah, let's hope it's going to be a bit better this weekend. I can't wait to drive it again in pre-quali. Fingers crossed that we fix a few problems. I'm confident the team is giving the maximum they can to give us a better car, and we have to just perform better on track.
The Austrian-Polish partnership of Christian Kleen and Patrick Krupinski enjoyed a great start to their campaign at the opening round when they guided their JP Motorsport McLaren to victory in the Pro-Am class in the second of the 2 races at Brands Hatch.
It was good as well. It's been a long time for me to be back here in Magny Cours, but it's a great track. It's really nice and flowing, especially in a GT3 car. And I mean, we had a good start of the season in Pro-Am and Brands Hatch, and we would like to continue that. I think we have a good car. It's a good pace. I mean, all the cars are very leveled out in the SRO categories, so you know, one track works a bit better for one brand, the other track is better for the other brand, but all in all, it's all close together. It's still the team and the drivers can make the differences, and that's why I also like the championship.
So, let's explain how the Sprint Cup works. There are 5 rounds of the Fanatec GT Sprint Series this season, with a pair of races at each. Each of these lasts an hour apiece, and each car is shared by 2 drivers who swap over in the mandatory pit stop that must be made in the pit stop window between 25 and 35 minutes into the race. As well as the drivers, all 4 tyres must be changed, and vitally, there is no minimum pit stop time, so a well-drilled crew can really help its drivers gain time and perhaps even a position or 2. All the cars are run to GT3 regulations, with the field divided into 3 classes by driver grading. The Pro class is packed with manufacturer-backed drivers, and race winners are most likely to come from here. The Silver Cup is for younger, up-and-coming drivers with less experience. And then there's Pro-Am, which is just that, an amateur driver partnered with a pro. The opening round of the Fanatec GT Sprint Series at Brands Hatch was contested by 26 cars and the 6 leading GT brands. And that same heady mix of machinery and manufacturers will be gunning for glory at Magny Cours, with Audi, Porsche, McLaren and Lamborghini looking to join Ferrari and Mercedes as winners. So, looking at the manufacturers table, it's Audi leading the way from Mercedes, with Porsche in 3rd position. It's been a fantastic day weather-wise at Magny Cours, an agenda packed with racing. It's early summer in so many ways. It's been in the mid-20s in terms of degrees, and track temperature has been a really high factor. And of course, the air is starting to cool, but it's been a warm day, John Watson.
It's been a glorious day all round. 24.6, ambient 24.3, so all the 24s basically. And perfect weather to go into this early evening race here at Magny Cours.
So here's the grid. Inside of the front row, pole position for Simon Gachet in an Audi. Charles Wirtz alongside in an Audi. There's a trend here. The leading Silver Cup runner, Gilles Magnus, in an Audi. Then Pierre-Alexandre Jean, already an outright winner, in a Ferrari. There's the difference. Thomas Drouet, fastest Mercedes racer, ahead of Timo Bogoslawski. He's already got a win in the bag at Brands Hatch. Aurélien Panis looking for good result at home, another Audi driver. Nicolas Scholl also in an Audi. You can see how good the car is. Ninth position, Jean-Baptiste Simonauer in an Audi. Then Jim Pla, look for fireworks from him. He's in a Mercedes. Eddie Cheever, now in a Mercedes this year, went well at the end of qualifying, picked up the pace. Maybe they are finding the form. Peter Schotthorst in the second of the attempt to Audi starts 12th. Then Matthias Drudy, look for a charge from him in Audi number 12. Adrian Delinier, the better of the 2 Porsche drivers from Dynamic. Then Benjamin Goethe, another car Audi from Team WRT. And Manuel Maldonado, the best of the McLarens from Garage 59. Then comes Petru Umberescu in another ASP Mercedes. Giorgio Roda, the second of the Dynamic Porsches. Miguel Ramos in a Garage 59 McLaren alongside Patrick Krupinski, Polish racer, the JP Motorsport McLaren, and Ugo Delacour, AF Corsa Ferrari, alongside Valentino Rossi. Don't forget, he's got that penalty too. And then Louis Michels, Pro-Am Ferrari from AF Corsa, and Gerhard Theresa, the GSM Nova Marine Lamborghini driver, now all set for the latest chapter in Fanatec GT racing action. Field need to close up a bit more, but the front 2-3 rows very close indeed. Of course, all eyes will be on the lights on the starting gantry. They're red, and as soon as they flick out, the throttle can be floored and away before it's gone red. To my eye, went the pole man.
Oh, did he ever go? He went about 4 seconds before those lights went out, and whether that will be deemed to be a jump starter, and he gained an advantage.
Well, Charles Wirtz has lost out, so Gilles Magnus also made a pounce, number 26.
Contact. I thought there was side by side. He just coming through the early part, but seemed to get it straightened up.
I was about to have the intake of breath. So Charles Wirtz been riding on board with him down to 3rd position. Of course, we're going to message soon saying the start is under investigation. That is standard practice. Through the kink, up the straight they go to the top of the hill, to the Adelaide hairpin for the first time, and looking very busy as Timo Bogoslawski trying to go inside the sister Audi, but 87 Thomas Drouin keeps his nose in front, kicking up the dust on the exit of Adelaide. Down the slope they go. Little curve there, but not much to be far beyond. But then we get to the Nürburgring S. Look at that. They'll be bouncing over the curves. Fantastic.
Well, Simon Gachet did what he needed to do, but he just did it too early. He went, everybody else was flat-footed, and he was up and gone. So I will be interested to see what the clerk of the course, race director, will say when he reviews that, because clearly it gave Simon Gachet a massive advantage in the number 11 Dresser by Car Collection Audi.
Right, the person who has made a gain is Timo Bogoslawski, has gone ahead of Akodis ASP teammate Thomas Drouin, so he is up into 5th place. So his teammate Raffaele Marcello going, well done Timo, keep on going, but keep it clean, keep it tidy. First 4 starting to make the escape. Simon Gachet from Gilles Magnus, Charles Wirtz and Pierre-Alexandre Jean trying to hang on. 99 braking heavily towards the end of the lap, and that's a nice tidy entry there from Nicolas Scholl. It's busy. Just checking any wave yellow flags, no, but at the end of the first lap it's about a second. 1.039 is the margin of a second between Simon Gachet and Gilles Magnus. Charles Wirtz still in 3rd, Pierre-Alexandre Jean. Now it's getting a little bit line astern.
Remember, Rossi is on a new set of Pirellis. I don't know how many others will have started on a new set of Pirellis. So that gives the Audi a little bit of an advantage, but once we get into 5 or 8 laps, then that will taper off. So if you can't find a way around the McLaren now, and he's looking up the inside and blocked. I mean, that was a pretty blatant block by Kapinski, but Rossi has done the switch back, gotten ahead of the McLaren, but they're going to go down the hill side by side. And McLaren has edged its nose back into the front as they get down into the braking zone to come down into Virage du Lycée.
Well, there's going to be contact, and there it is, because come what may, Valentino was going down the inside, almost contact to the exit onto the start-finish straight, and the Ferrari behind is going to gain on the pair of them. That's Hugo Delacour.
That type of blocking, contact with the Ferrari to deliberately stop it, trying to find a way past, all because of what took place going into the Virage du Lycée when Rossi and the McLaren were a little bit untidy, and that gave the Ferrari the run. So again, lots of things to be observed.
Well, look, he came from quite a long way back, but Krupinski left the door open, but then he has to close it because he's got to get around the corner. So there's contact there. He comes back onto the track, nearly hits the back of Valle's car, and then, of course, he gets very close indeed to the front.
On board with Rossi, so he moves down. You can see the contact that occurred. Now, there's nothing deliberate in it, but that's what happens.
Jane just looking at the concentration of Valentino's eyes. Also, you can see his eyes suddenly fully lit because, of course, straight into the sun. Goes through the chicane, now settling down past the pits. But at the front of the race, it's Simon Gachet leading all the way. Charles Wirtz suddenly picked up the pace. He fell down to 9/10 of a second down behind Gilles Magnus, then 7/10, but he's maybe kept his tyres a little sweeter than Gilles Magnus. That is experience side by side down the hill. Can he get another half car length because the track's about to go right? He's put his nose in front into 2nd place because surely, yes, Gilles Magnus realised I've been beaten, no point fighting it at that point. Well, that would be 2 cars in the gravel trap.
Well, certainly on the wrong side of the racetrack to go into the Nürburgring chicane. So Charles Wirtz did a very good job.
Now let's take a look. Why did 2nd place Gilles Magnus, who's just in front? We're looking at Charles Wirtz's car. Did he make a mistake? It's just behind us. Yes, he's run wide and couldn't commit to the power. And then that manifests itself, John, all the way up the hill to Adelaide. Now we've seen that replay, we can understand how suddenly Charles Wirtz, who had been slightly falling away in 3rd place, was presented with the opportunity to make the move that became 2nd place. Wow, the speeds. That is Timo Bogoslawski running in 5th place. We're riding on board with him 3 kilometres an hour faster than the best of the rest. Benji Goethe at the Grand Cours. That is the fast left-hander that starts the lap, that feeds into Estoril. So certainly for the Mercedes driver, that is where he has an advantage. He's making it pay because he's catching the Ferrari.
Yes, up the hill into the Imola chicane. So Bogoslawski, a little bit of correction, but the car fairly consistent. Now into the braking up at Virage du Lycée, and this is the different perspective. So all a bit untidy as this battle goes on between the 2 Audis as they make their way down the hill once again.
Well, that's Nicolas Scholl trying to defend from the chasing, lunging, diving Matthias Drudi. Not close enough. Well, he is close enough. He's made it work. But this is the point the driver suddenly gets slightly blinded by the sun. and then through that final chicane. So 13th became 12th, became 11th, became 10th, now into 9th.
And you could see the experience and the class of Matteo Drudi. He worked out where he's got the benefits to find a way around Nicolas Schul, and he did it down the hill. Not the easiest place in the circuit to pass, but if you do your prep well, then it's an option that's available to you.
And here's a shot for you, John, a little box with a couple of drivers' feet in them.
Yeah, and it'll probably be a traditional now left foot brake. There we go. I still can't get my head around left foot braking, but the Ferrari gets into Adelaide hairpin and the Mercedes follows, runs a bit wide on the exit, but he's within, what, 4 tenths of a second as they came across the line. I'm not quite sure whether it was still 4 tenths as they came through Adelaide, but pursuing and pushing here Alexander Jean all the way. Tighter entry from the Mercedes, and again just hugging the sort of the perimeter of the 180 as now it comes off. That accelerates again up the hill and wonders where can I make another gain.
3.1 seconds between leader and second place. Pit window now open, but what do you do if you're Simon Gachet? We won't know if he's going to the pits until this point where he might suddenly turn in. No, having too much fun, continues on his way. But from second place, it was Dries van Tor we saw standing and waiting, no doubt bobbing up and down on the balls of his feet. And in behind comes everyone else with Timo Bogoslawski all but clattering into the back of the Ferrari.
Yeah, so
second, third, fourth and fifth all pitting.
The Mingus, the Ferrari and the Mercedes all in. So there we see it'll be Ulisses de Pauw will get in behind the wheel of the Ferrari. Raffaele Marcello behind the wheel of the Mercedes, and in the case of the 26, that will be Nicolas Beert.
Well, indeed. Now, how well briefed are these teams? It's all about constant practice and rehearsal. Get it clean, get it right. But meanwhile, Simon Gachet stretches his advantage. And again, it looks like an excellent pit stop from Charles Weerts to Dries van Tor. How long in the pits? 40.8 seconds. Is that going to be the benchmark?
Well, we need to keep an eye on, well, the Mingus, number 26, 44.4 seconds.
And Bogoslawski has got ahead of the Ferrari, nearly pushed into the pit lane, and Codis ASP slightly faster than AF Corsa. Job done.
A poor pit stop for the Ferrari AF Corsa, 45.1 seconds. That's well, not quite the slowest. The slowest we've seen is the 111 McLaren.
But look, even though Timo Bogoslawski handing over to Raffaele Marcello, there was a place change. Theirs was 44.2. Let's just reiterate the time that Charles Weerts, when his car handed over to Dries van Tor, how long it took? 40.8 seconds in the pit lane. That's Christmas wrapped up for you. Okay, now the battle we're looking at here, the car's back on track, and Gilles Magnus has handed over to Nicolas Beer, but Nicolas Beer has got Raffaele Marcello not behind him. He's already alongside, and the Mercedes driver just waiting for no one to welcome him. The race leader, Simon Gachet, out of the car, and Christopher Hasse, the white and red helmeted German driver, takes over, and this is super experienced. But they had that lovely buffer of 3 and a bit seconds before the pit stops. But they want to be as efficient as they can in the pit stop. But if they lose 3 seconds, who's there to pick it up? It'll be Dries van Tor will move into the lead of the race. But let's not say ifs and buts. The last 2 cars still have to serve their pit stops, but for the front runners, it's looking neat and tidy. And here comes Dries van Tor, and exiting the pit lane is the number 11 Audi. Will that tuck back in front? Yes, it will, but by about a second, I think. But again, you've got that staggered exit from the pit lane, and the Audi off. Dries van Tor is into the lead. Team WRT take the bow yet again. That's exquisite.
And Christopher Hasse did everything he could. He carried all the speed out of the pit lane on a brand new set of tyres, or whatever the best of the rest is. But Dries van Tor saw that opportunity. He's on fresh tyres that have done 1 racing lap, had the momentum, had the pace, and was not only that, had the focus and the determination. My only chance to get past Christopher Hasse is now. Yeah, and he's taken it, and he's made it work.
The 52 Ferrari, Louis Machiels will handle over to Andrea Bertolini, but of course they are running in the Pro-Am class. They've got their own battle to consider.
Whoa!
Whoa, that was Casper Stevenson getting it just a little bit twitchy, and you get it wrong on the approach to Estoril, and then you're into the dirt.
Did you say he was only 18 years of age?
19.
19? Oh, well, 19. Well, at 19, you shouldn't have made that type of move. But look, he's a kid, for goodness sake. And he made a move. It was a very ambitious move, and it nearly caught him out as the Audi exits from the pit lane, and he thinks about it. Can I make a move? Here, the back end drifts around, gets out of the gas, but has to go wide on the exit. So the left side of the tyres are going to be, well, in fact, all 4 tyres are going to be choked in the gravel dust as he goes now down, all the way down into Adelaide. Needs to be careful on the brakes because it takes a little bit of time to clear those tyres up.
Right, while all this is happening, let's just run you down the order. It's Dries Van Tor, Christopher Haase, Raffaele Marciello, Patrick Niederhauser, so it was a good pit stop from Santalot Racing. Luca Giotto, fastest and best place of the Silver Cup runners is Nicolas Baer, who's taken over from Gilles Magnus. Just that little mistake put them down the order, but Ulysses de Pauw is fighting back in the 53 AF Corsa Ferrari. In the Prime class, it's Dean McDonald leading the way in his McLaren, down in 19th place overall. Second in Pro-Am, look at him now, Cedric Spirazzuoli, one of the AF Corsa Ferraris, and he's just in front of Christian Klein, and only just, and the ex-Austrian Formula 1 driver will be trying to gain positions. One person who is doing that is Fred Vervisch. Don't forget that was the car that had an extra 10 seconds at a standstill in the pit stop, and Christopher trying to build on whatever was given to him by Valle.
Fred is not going to give it up going into the Nürburgring chicane. He's got the car into 18th, that should be nice, 17th, finding a way around the Mercedes. So Fred Vervisch, we know, a class act anytime he's in a race car, let alone an Audi.
So it doesn't matter if you're fighting for the lead, or in this case fighting for 16th position. It's fast, it's furious, and you can see how the light is changing, John. It was very bright when we started the race, but we started at 7:30 local time, and we're now past 8 o'clock.
Remember, this time last year, this race was a later race, and we went into darkness. This race was going to finish probably in twilight. That's a lovely word, twilight. But I don't think it's going to be the darkness that we had to cope with just 1 year ago.
Yeah, I think back to some of the races here, the night race on the Saturday, full darkness on the circuit, and quite hard for the camera crews to pick them out. It's a very dark circuit, and Fred Vervisch didn't need a second invitation and picks off Chris Froggatt. He had the speed, found the place to make the move work.
And that's just pure racing nous and experience. He found a way around or up the inside of Chris Froggatt. Once he had made the move, he compromised himself in the process, but he made sure he compromised Chris Froggatt even more.
They're down to under a second between second and third place. Christopher Haase still hanging on for Tracer by car collection. Meanwhile, up front, Dries Van Tor was 2.9 seconds clear. When he completes this lap, he's probably just he's on the start-finish straight. It might go out a little bit more, but certainly for Raffaele Marciello, he's now got a proper tow from Christopher Haase. He's just 0.5 of a second down on the German in second place, who is now 3.4 seconds away from the race leader. This is great for Van Tor.
I was going to say, it depends how the Audi can get into Estoril, and I think Christopher Haase is having to wait because he can't get the front to bite enough, and that has given Marciello again a marginal gain as they come through the exit, then this run down into Adelaide. Now, he's not in a position to execute an overtake, but he's giving Christopher Haase a good workout. Now, what the difference between the two cars is, what, 2 or 3 tenths of a second, and all over the back of the Audi now, accelerating down into this quick right left at Nürburgring. Watch what happens when they go into the 180. The Mercedes, to me, can hold a tighter line on the entry. Well, there it is. Watch the Mercedes if it can stay that little bit tighter, just get the power on that little bit earlier.
Oh, a little twitch.
The Audi is struggling, both on turn and then on throttle. The nose washed out, then he got on the throttle and the back stepped out. He's caught the back of the Audi, but it'll not be an easy overtake. He's going to have to be rather forthright, I suspect, somewhere. And the sooner he is, then the easier the pass is going to become. The longer he stays behind Christopher Haase, the more his momentum is going to be compromised, and he'll end up finishing third.
Great driving from Isa Totoblu. The Spanish driver saw what was happening. He heeded the blue flags and he pulled out of the way. Well done. He hasn't interrupted his battle for second position, and you can be sure that either of those drivers are thinking, I might have gained if he'd stayed there, but well done to GSM Nova Marine and keeping their Lamborghini out of the way. Right, Dries Van Tor, he'll be more than 4 seconds clear. 4.4 seconds to the good. So this race not quite in the bag, 12 minutes to go, but it's this battle for second place. It's been edging one way, then the other, but most recently actually a slight gain for Christopher Haase, just stemming the flow.
Again, Haase can't keep the Audi as tight in the middle of Estoril as Marciello can do in the Mercedes, and again the speed off the corner marginally to the advantage of Marciello, but on the straight only has to, for the first time really, Christopher Haase using the middle of the racetrack to try and deny Marciello, who comes out that little bit quicker over the curve for Christopher Haase. Now, can he do anything into Nürburgring? It'll be a brave move. He's got more momentum. He's got alongside. He's going to go through. Yes, but Haase, he had to. He had no choice.
He had to just lift that tiny little bit, and it was a real freight train coming down from the top of the hill from the Adelaide hairpin. Better exit. We've seen the punch of the Mercedes out of the Adelaide hairpin, and again at 180 just seems to have the grip and the traction and the shunt out of the corner, used it to its fullest. But those were two pro drivers knowing when the battle was won. Taking a look as they came down the hill, how close would you like your drivers to be over second place? That could have turned a little bit rough and ready, but that was Christopher Haase being very wise, ceding a position when he knew he was beaten down the slope.
So here we go, out of Adelaide hairpin. The Mercedes has got better drive, better traction. He can beginning to out-accelerate the Audi, all due to that better traction off. Adelaide now gets fully alongside and is taking the corner away. In fact, he had to cut across the inside.
Right, Pro-Am Cup, it's Dean McDonald leading the way, the Garage 59 McLaren. And that is in 18th place overall, having passed Chris Froggatt on that last lap. So Froggatt going backwards, and now Klaus Bacher. Now he's a superstar in a Porsche. He's all over the tail of the Froggatt Mercedes. So Dean McDonald escapes. He's well clear in the Pro-Am class. Second in class, Cedric Spirazzuoli in one of the Ferraris. But it's all about the McLaren in the Pro-Am class. And you know, not a little battle at the back of the field. That's Cedric Spirazzuoli, I think, about to be passed by Christian Klein. The black and gold McLaren should have the outside line as they sweep down to the penultimate corner. But Spirazzuoli, the driver from Monaco, is going to have to back out. He does. So Christian Klein up to second place in the Pro-Am class, and he covers it and gets a blast up the back, a little bit of a push. We're into the final minute of the race. Charles Weerts watching the middle of the screen, and team boss Vincent Vos, they've watched this car win so many times. It's been a phenomenal pairing, phenomenal team. 2 corners to go. I just want to show you how the advantage of the front two has stretched. Christopher Haase is now 5 seconds behind Raffaele Marcello down the hill from Chateau d'Eau, with nobody too close in front of him to interrupt his form. Comes Dries Van Toor. Charles Weerts started from second, got moved back to third, worked his way back to second before the pit stop. Team WRT, a brilliant turnaround the fastest of all, and that is why they've taken the checkered flag. Dries Van Toor in front of Raffaele Marcello, and that, you can see, means a whole lot to WRT. 2 seconds in the sprint rounds at Brands Hatch, but a win. That's what they wanted, and that's what they've got at Magny Cours. The car finishing in 6th place, Nicolas Baer, the number 26 Santalok Audi, just coming to the front of your screen there, in front of the picture, is the winning car in the Silver Cup, just ahead by half a second of Ulysses de Pauw in the AF Corsa. Let's take a look as the race that started in the bright light fell to dusk here at Magny Cours. Team WRT, Charles Weerts started, Dries Van Toor took over, and the result was victory by 3.138 seconds from the chasing Raffaele Marcello in the number 89 Mercedes at the end. Simon Gachet was a real star in qualifying, but he and Christopher Haase had to make do with third place, but valuable points for their team. Well, let's find out what the winners think, because we're down there with Gemma.
Congratulations to both of you. That was a phenomenal race. Really exciting for us to watch. A lot of pressure for you. Come to you first, Charles. Your stint there dropped back, but that second place manoeuvre you did was wonderful.
Yeah, it was quite good. Fortunately, I missed the start. Got a bit surprised by how early it was, but nevertheless, I could get that second position back, and then thanks to the amazing job. I mean, I'm saying this thing every time I'm talking to you, but it's really thanks to the boys here at WRT that we could get by the car collection car, and with the 89 from Marcello being so fast was really important to have them behind us. So it's really thanks to them, and thanks to my great teammate that we won again today.
Dries, that pit stop made all the difference. You guys had the fastest pit stop, and that was evidently the gap between you and Raffaele at the end.
Yeah, I mean, like Charles said, a great job by the team. I mean, they again delivered, and they keep delivering every time again, so it helps us, it gives us that little extra, but it was tough. As soon as I was on my out lap, I felt like it was going to be a long 30 minutes, because I did not enjoy driving it so much, but yeah, again, great job by Charles, great job by the team, and happy to win the first sprint race for us actually this season. So yeah, very happy.
Back on top. Well done, boys. Thank you.
And now getting all set for the podium, and it's 1 Mercedes and 2 Audis. But as we look down there, of course, it's a Mercedes on the left that won the Silver Cup class, and the Pro-Am winning McLaren on the right, and that was Dean McDonald and Miguel Ramos. But the overall winners right in the middle of the shot. It's car number 32, Dries Van Toor, who brought it home, and Charles Weerts, who started off. And then, of course, a pat on the back for Team WRT for yet another fantastic pit stop. Welcome to Magny Cours for the second of the 2 sprint races here for the Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS. It was sunny and bright yesterday as we went to the evening race. It's still sunny and bright, but the weather is possibly going to have a change. We have cloud. It was clear yesterday in important thing. Look, the humidity's only 44%, but we have been warned a storm is on the way, possibly just after the race. It could yet be a factor. But look at those clouds, John Watson. It looks all right for now.
I would say that these conditions are about as ideal as you could really wish for a nice run on the French countryside here at Magny Cours, in the heart of France. And it has been a wonderful weekend so far. Looking down to the racetrack, there is the Adelaide hairpin. So we start, and I can't keep up with the tracker on this lap of the circuit. We're down to 180s, then up the hill through the Imola, then low, and then we come down and we're back onto the pit straight.
It's twisty, you can have flow, but you have got those overtaking potentials. The first corner, Grand Cours, that left-hander, and then Estoril, but most notably Adelaide at the top of the hill. But let's go down and speak to the driver who took pole. He's the driver of the 89 Mercedes. It's Raffaele Marciello.
Lello, yesterday we saw you absolutely flying through the field. This morning in qualifying, you've shown the pace. Mercedes front row here. Tell us about the strategy you've got ahead of you.
I mean, I will try to have a good start and then to make a good cup for Timur. And then it's about him to end the race.
And of course, we would imagine that you would stay in the car as long as possible as the quicker driver.
Yeah, I mean, there is not so much degradation, so it's quite good to go long as possible. Also because it takes a few laps before the tires are back on temperature after the pit. So, I mean, yeah, we will go long. I don't know if it's long as possible, but yeah, for sure we'll go a bit long.
Have a great race. Thank you very much.
Cool, calm, and measured. Now, John, take a look. This is some of the pole lap. He was on it.
Right, we're down on the 180, and this is a very tight, long left-hand corner, then switching back to the right, and you start to make your climb back up the hill, coming up towards the Imola chicane, and it's one of those places, it's a dip in the middle of it, then you rise over the crest as you exit it. So easy to run very, very wide on the outside, but Marciello very much in control of this phase. Then finally into Virage du Lycée, Saint-Rudeau, I beg your pardon, down the hill, then, and the run all downhill before you get to the penultimate sequence of corners, Virage du Lycée. Place where you can overtake, but you've got to be fully alongside to make it stick.
Well, it was really tight, but don't forget, qualifying was interesting on Saturday, but nothing like Sunday morning, where Dries van Tor, winner of the first race, and it went all wrong for Dries very early on, not even a flying lap on board. That's the exit of the Nürburgring chicane, off the circuit, into the tyre wall, John.
I think it just goes to prove that the man is actually human after all. He made a fundamental error, got wide coming through the Nürburgring chicane, and as a consequence, this is out of Adelaide, so we're going to ride all the way down this straight that leads into the right-left at Nürburgring. And for some reason, as he transitioned to the left, the car just got wide. He ran wide at this point, and then all of a sudden, the back end swapped around, and it was a passenger all the way backwards into the tower barriers.
Dries, we've just seen on the output there that the moment that you had this morning in qualifying, you seem to be very lucky there and avoided too much damage onto the car to be able to get back out and set a very good lap.
Yeah, luckily it wasn't so easy. The car wasn't really perfect to drive anymore. It was quite oversteery, but yeah, luckily we, it's been a great rule for quite a while now with causing a red flag in qualifying. But I think yesterday evening they are still trying to figure out a good way to make a rule out of it. But yeah, luckily we got our lap back. We're starting P4. Hopefully we can have a clean race and get a podium maybe and score some good points. So wouldn't have thought this after qualifying this morning, but luckily we are standing here now. So
it's going to be a difficult race. We saw the pace that Lello had on you yesterday in that second part of the race one. You've got the traffic ahead of you. Do you think you can actually get up there and make this work?
Will be tough. I think the Mercedes are quick, like in Brands. They have been strong so far. Yesterday Lello was very fast. We were not on a similar pace, let's say. But I'll try my best. Hopefully we can get P2. I will try my best, of course, but I think it will be tough.
Well, we saw it all come under pit stops yesterday, so the team strategy will be strong. Thank you very much, Dries.
Well, undoubtedly the 32 ID team will be pushing all the way, but the key for them will be, we saw a very, very fast pit stop. They saved over nearly 4 seconds over the Mercedes, the 89 Mercedes of Marciello and Boguslawski. And that could be the key to them getting into a podium position. But of course, I would like to think that the Akodas ASP team that runs that 89 car in particular can do better in the pit lane. That you cannot give away 4 seconds just because of a slow pit stop.
No, but the best place for Raffaele Marciello to give his bid a real push is to stay in the lead of this race. In terms of pace, he looks so he can do that because, of course, even if they're running nose to tail, the whole order extends. So if you could be in front at the end of the first stint, you've got a big advantage.
Well, that's what happened at Brands Hatch a couple of weeks ago, where Marcello started the second race, handed over to Timo Boguslawski. Boguslawski went back out on track in clear air. That's where he probably is most comfortable, and he managed to win that race by over 6 seconds.
Right, you were talking of Brands Hatch, and let's hear of one of the drivers who won the opening race, Ulysses de Pauw.
Ulysses, it's been great to see the pace the Ferrari have had so far this year, to get the class pole position and really fighting it up with the big boys here.
Yeah, that's the goal. We are not as much performant as Brands Hatch, but we are in a good position. P7, pole in class, so we go for big points overall and big points in silver as well.
Where are we going to expect to see the overtake moves here?
Everywhere.
It's a great circuit. Enjoy. Thanks a lot.
Well, that's a great answer from the 20-year-old Belgian driver. It's still new to him, and I love that level of enthusiasm.
Well, he says everywhere, but I would say anywhere. But in reality, there are a few places that overtakes are possible. But again, as on most modern racetracks, the obvious places are the ones that are most easily defended. And the obvious places coming down into Adelaide, Hairpin Bend. So easily defended, but keep an eye on what might happen down at the end of the straight.
Right, so Pro-Am pole did go to the 188 Garage 59 McLaren, and then it was taken away because Dean McDonald was going faster and faster. Not just one good lap, but many. But then, unfortunately, he was one of 3 crews that got dropped for impeding, well, 2 crews for impeding other runners, and that cost him 3 places. But still will be starting the outside of the 4th row, but that means he's immediately behind a Pro-Am rival, which would be another McLaren. It'll be Christian Klein, who's starting a very impressive 6th in the JP Motorsport crew.
Yeah, both McLarens actually doing a very good job in qualifying, but finding a way around Christian Klein for Dean McDonald is not going to be an easy task. Certainly Christian Klein, a lot of experience over many seasons. But Dean McDonald, I thought, was outstanding in qualifying. He did a very good job in his stint yesterday. So, you know, be patient. You can't win this in turn 1 in the opening lap. And again, we've got that pit stop window, and that's where teams can make the difference. So if he can hold his position, let's say come around in 7th or 8th position on the opening lap, then he can think about how can I then begin to make further progress.
Yeah, again, we just heard from Ulysses de Pauw, 20 years old, Dean McDonald only 19 years old. We've got this whole crop of young drivers coming in. You think you know what the status quo is, but we love it in motorsport, John. Status quo never stays true for very long. But one thing we can tell you is that on that front row, Maxi Götz on the outside, he was the Sprint Cup champion back in 2014, sharing with Maxi Buch, but Raffaele Marcello, they've been solid gold standard for year after year in GT3 racing.
I mean, it's such a strong lineup with the 89 Mercedes. The 88, likewise, with Jim Pla, Max Götz standing in for Jules Gounon, who won down in Bathurst. This, well, it's all through Sunday. A very mixed race. They even had kangaroos in the early sort of evening dusk getting onto them. 4 of them I counted, and there may have been more.
They popped them out there for the TV cameramen just to make sure that it looks as though it's racing in Australia. But Bathurst 12, good. That was the first race at Bathurst with a crowd, and you can be sure next year when the Intercontinental GT World Challenge heads down, the field will be absolutely packed down under. But it was a Mercedes 1, 2, 3. Will it be a Mercedes 1, 2 here? We've got 1 and 2 at the front of the grid. The front row is all Mercedes. The 89 of Raffaele Marcello, the 88 of Maxi Götz. With those 2 Audis, but I haven't talked about Patrick Niedhauser. He's starting 3rd, the 25 Santalot racing car. I think they're due a top result.
I mean, they've got the opportunity certainly to get a podium, maybe, depending on how the pit stops work out. But the key for this race will be Marcello leading in to turn 1 ahead of the sister car, driven by Max Götz. And if he can get there, then he can basically, with the pace he's illustrated throughout the weekend, just stretch that advantage up to the point when they make that pit stop. We think it might be a fairly late pit stop for the 89 Mercedes.
Right, now when the field sets off on its formation lap, just to explain how the lap unfolds, it's a very fast first corner, the left-hander at Grand Corps, and it feeds almost immediately into the entrance of Estoril, which goes on and on and on and on, turning to the right and then guiding the cars up the hill. But so many times on the opening lap, you have a compromised position. We have people running wide. We saw it yesterday, going into the gravel, driving through it. Take a look, John, and explain the lap as the cars set off on their formation.
Okay, here we are going down pit straight. You need to be on the left of screen as you cut across to go into, first of all, Grand Curve. Now the Mercedes of Marcello could go through there flat, but then he's got to get out of it, dab on the brakes, down a gear to transition to the right to get through the long, and you can see there's quite a lot of banking. But again, I mentioned this yesterday, that corner is a much tighter corner. This is a very wide angle lens we're looking at the corner from, so it tends to give you a slightly different perspective than that from the driver behind the wheel. So now we're coming on to the long straight, going through a curve which is called Golf, not Golf, a Golf with an O, not with a U. And then before you know it, you're on the brakes, down. We're coming up to down into Adelaide Happen-Bend.
So let's run through the grid order. Raffaele Marcello and Maxi Götz make it an all-Acodis ASP Mercedes front row. Patrick Niederhauser, Dries van Tor reinstated to that 4th place on the grid. Christopher Mies looking for a good result for Team WRT as well. And Christian Klein, the top Pro-Am runner in 6th overall, the JP Motorsport McLaren. Ulisses de Pauw, already a winner at Brands Hatch. AF Corsa Ferrari is 7th, and Dean McDonald, the 19-year-old Scot, in 8th position. Klaus Bachler, Dynamic Motorsport Porsche, starting to make progress. He's 9th, and Fred Vervisch, he will do as well as he can before handing to Valentino Rossi. Dennis Marshall, a good move for Attempter Racing, middle order. Christopher Haase, the performance not there, but definitely the driver is very good indeed. Christian Engelhardt flashed the speed in his dynamic Porsche, but no consistency yet. Thomas Neubauer, 14th on the grid for WRT. Aki Naka, the second of the Attempto Audis, in 15th, and Cedric Spirazzuoli, one of the Pro Cup runners, in 16th. Then Luca Giotto sharing with Matteo Drudi. Yesterday they went from 13th to 5th. Today 17th to what? We will find out. Canadian racer Ethan Simeone alongside. Then Igor Valilko. Look also too for Nicola Baer, because that car was running at the front end of the field yesterday. 21st and 22nd, Chris Froggatt in, not a Ferrari this year, it's Mercedes. Isaac Tatumlu in the Lamborghini. And 2 of the drivers who got pinged with a 3-place penalty. Casper Stevenson, he's got speed, he's made one mistake. And Andrea Bertolini, for impeding another driver as well, drop onto the back row of the grid. 24 cars are starting. We ought to have had 25, but unfortunately in practice on Friday the Jota McLaren went off and too much damage to continue, so very unfortunate there for Matt Bell, who didn't drive it, and Ollie Wilkinson, who had the off himself. So Chateau d'Eau, this will be the slowest they go through that all lap, and then they have to drop down the slope. They get to it via that wonderful Imola sweeper, and the final sequence of corners, John, so tight. Virage du Lycée into that left-right, the right-left onto the start-finish straight. Very tight indeed, which does make a rolling start somewhat difficult.
Now, we saw a very, very good start yesterday for Simon Gachet in the pole positioning Audi. Wonder what we'll see here in a few seconds' time as the 89 and the 88 Mercedes have got a lockout on that front row grid position. Watch behind, because the Patrick Niederhauser Audi, the blue Audi, and alongside is the 32 with Dries van Thor on board. They will be looking for any and every opportunity. If there isn't one there, they might try to make it.
Don't forget, Dries van Thor, at one point we thought he might not be setting a flying lap at all, but he's got it up into 4th place, waiting for the start. Looks as though the nose of Raffaele's car is ahead. Those behind really pushing on. There may be a challenge from the car even from behind Niederhauser, making a dive up the inside. Certainly a huge gain for the car with the M on its nose. No, dearie me, Dries van Thor, your meeting is not going as well as it should. Into the gravel and back to almost the tail of the field. He's lost about 10 positions there.
I don't know how he got himself so out of position coming into turn 1. He was just so far off the line. There we see the Lamborghini likewise plowing its way through the gravel, getting back on the racetrack. As a consequence, will end up running last.
Right, the car you need to look for is the one that moved from 5th up to 3rd. It's the white and blue Audi, and the best of the Audis, therefore, it's Christopher Mies. He's been racing these cars for years, and he absolutely showed, but for another Audi driver, for Dries van Thor, it has all gone horribly wrong, having scrabbled back, recovered from the mistake in qualifying, got up onto that 2nd row, and now he might as well have started from about row number 6. So a story, there will be a chase back, because he and Charles Weerts is perfectly fast enough. They won the first race. He's picking off places all the time.
Fred Verviers is nibbling at the back of the McLaren as they go through the 180. You can see the bodywork on the back of the McLaren being deflected to Christian Klein. Another corner where he's been under attack. He was certainly attacked in yesterday's race, mildly, but nevertheless. So up into Chateau d'Eau for the first time.
Right, those that have gained include Christopher Haase. He's moved up about 5 positions, which is about half the number of positions that, unfortunately, for Dries van Thor has lost. But it's Raffaele Marcello from Maxi Götz, from Christopher Mies, and look, the number 11 Audi picks off another position, just goes past that JP Motorsport McLaren. We're looking at the tail of the Audi that's making that fabulous charge. So they're fighting over 7th place, but Maxi Götz just under a second down on the race leader, which is, of course, Raffaele Marcello. Christopher Mies in 3rd, Patrick Niederhauser 4th, and Klaus Bachler up to 5th. That's the highest position we've had a Porsche driver for some while. He started in 9th position.
Already Marcello's got the best part of a second, 0.892 of a second ahead of Max Goertz in the second of the two Mercedes. Dries van Thor, having started on the second row of the grid, all the way down, and there's the Lamborghini again in trouble.
I see, so to Tumlu sharing with Gerhard Therese, did well to sort of save himself running wide first time around. The second time of us, he's got it wrong. So just remember, another position being gained there by Dries van Thor. The Ferrari number 21 has gained a fair few positions, but Cedric Spirazzuoli being picked off with ease, as you'd expect by Dries van Thor, in different battles, in different classes. But maybe in a different class for everyone else at the moment is Raffaele Marcello, stretching his advantage at the front of the field.
Keep an eye on Klaus Bachler, currently in 5th place, fastest overall in Sector 1 on this lap. So he will be looking to find a way around the Patrick Niederhauser, Audi, and Valentino's find something interesting and amusing. His driver currently at 9th, Fred Verbies.
Yeah, he's gained one position, but that effectively was handed to him by Dries van Thor going backwards. But you can see the bright yellow car with 46 on the door. He's the next WRT driver who fancies a chance of going past Christian Klein, who's leading the Pro-Am class. Don't forget, with Dean McDonald starting right at the tail.
But Fred Verbies has been now 1 lap behind Christian Klein. Coming through 181 lap ago, he was nibbling at the back of the McLaren and hasn't been able to make any further progress.
Right, one thing I need to pick myself up on, Dean McDonald actually is at the tail of the field now because he went into the pits at the end of the opening lap. Don't forget, he started from 8th on the grid, and that was including a 3-place grid penalty. So we know the pace is there, but clearly he was one caught out. Now, the start of the race, all look clean behind. Look when we get to Grand Cours for the number 32 Audi. It's white, red and black. It went to the outside of the track and then ran off, and that's when it lost 10 whole positions.
Well, there you can see him. He gets 3 cars trying to get into Grand Cours. Dries van Thor didn't want to lift, but he was forced to because he got onto the gravel on the outside of the corner. At this point, he's fighting to keep the car pointing in a straight line. He doesn't want the car to spin. He eventually gets back on track, and by this point, he's down in 14th position. A messy, messy start for a car that potentially had a shot at being on the podium.
Well, what happened, John, as I look at that replay, the drivers on the second row, Patrick Niederhauser, Dries van Thor, were not as well away as those from the third row. The fourth row was trying to come through, and Ulysses de Pauw in that Ferrari from row 4 went up the inside and left him nowhere to get back on the track at this point at the Grand Cours, thus the Rodeo ride.
And there you saw the pinch point going into Grand Cours, and 25 Audi had to get out of the throttle. Here's we go back to the race, lead 1.16 seconds. That's the advantage that we've seen Raffaele Marcello build. So it's 0.3 of a second almost on that last lap. And further back, well, it's all pretty much nose to tail from 3rd all the way back down to Christian Klein in 8th and back down to 9th, Fred Verbies.
An interesting little fact for you, there's just over a gap between 1st and 2nd, and the next car's down to 22nd position. No one is more than a second behind the car in front, so it is nose to tail. But unfortunately for everyone behind is Raffaele Marcello, fastest in Sector 1, fastest in Sector 2, fastest lap of the race so far. He will go faster, but the advantage, he gains the best part of 0.6 of a second over the similarly mounted Maximilian Goertz. So it's a Codis ASP from a Codis ASP Mercedes. Christopher Mies, the best of the rest, off that brilliant start where he moved himself very quickly up from 5th on the grid into 3rd. Now let's take a look at a replay of wide, wide and wide some more. That is the number 26, and that's Nicolas Baer. He was starting from towards the tail of the field, and I'm afraid he's shed a few more positions with that bumpy, dusty ride.
Yeah, when you get into the gravel on the outside of Grand Cours, you're really just a passenger. Looking at Dries van Thor looking to slide down the inside of Daniel Marshall coming into, you may have got that overtake done. He's now going to be looking at the back of Alex Aka in the 99. As they now come into the infield of this Magny Cours Grand Prix circuit, on board again with Fred Verbies, still looking at the back of that Christian Klein McLaren, still getting close to him. It just looks to me the McLaren hasn't got mid-corner pace. Verbies is able to run him down there, but he can't get sufficiently close on the run out of the 180, up the hill, coming up towards the Imola. There's something lying in the middle of the racetrack. I don't know if there's been a body work, but anyway, hopefully it's not going to be an issue. That we'll have to see a yellow flag or a full course yellow.
Yeah, I think it's off the racing line unless someone gets an exceptionally good exit from 180, or more to the point, someone has a mistake in front. They won't be on that part of the circuit. But race leader Raffaele Marcello, 1.771 seconds to good. Maxi Goertz has got 3/4 of a second to good over Christopher Mies. You can see at those interval times that Christian Engelhardt losing ground, gaining ground, losing ground to Fred Verbies. The battle for 9th and 10th, but it's Fred in front in the massive yellow, white and black Audi.
Yeah, but Vervish has got to be on his toes because Christian Engelhardt is directly behind him by less than half a second. There you can see the yellow and black car coming into Estoril directly behind the Porsche. Looked like Engelhardt got a bit sideways mid-corner, but seems to be continuing on without too much.
Right, I've got to ring the bell here. 1.7 seconds, no more, is the race lead. It's the best part of 2.5 seconds. Another 7/10 gained by Raffaele Marcello over Maxi Götz. This is great news for the second driver in that leading car, Timo Bogoslawski. If that lead could be grown and grown and grown, and Raffaele stay out as long as he can until he comes in. Has to come in between 25 minutes into this race and 35, but he's doing exactly what the doctor ordered, and I don't mean Valentino Rossi.
No, and of course for that Dakota's ASP team, they need to ensure that they recovered from a very slow pit stop by the standards of the winning teams. And that was the winning team yesterday, the WRT team. They did a pit stop in 40.1 seconds, I think. Way quicker than any of the opposition, and just an illustration of what it takes to win a race.
Okay, in the background as the cars come up the hill, wait for number 32, just coming into shot, gained another position. Now he's passed both of the Attempto Audis. First, Dennis Marshall, last lap. Now Alex Arkin-Arca has been picked off as well. So Dries up into 11th place, not yet in the points. They go down to 10th, but the only points that Dries is interested in are those that really go to the podium finishes. 16.5 for victory, 12 for second, 9.5 for third.
And he's taken quite a lot of time out of the Christian Engelhardt in 10th position on this lap. You can see the best part of 8 nearly 9 tenths of a second, fractionally down in that final sector, but that doesn't really have much bearing. There is the race leader driving serenely. Now, we have seen some onboard shots from this 89 Mercedes, and what I've enjoyed watching is the way Marcello holds the steering wheel. There is no pressure on this. He's letting the car flow, and part of that is because of the manner in which he's controlling it, and it's a joy to watch.
Right, really is getting away. 3 seconds to the good. Then Maxi Götz, he'll hand over to Jim Pla around the halfway point. Let's see who's got the speed advantage in the first corner. Of course, it's Raffaele Marcello, and he will go faster. We saw speed as high as 217 km/h in qualifying, but he's still 2k up. It's interesting, a Porsche now in the mix. They're finding their form. Klaus Bachler, who's running in 5th place, second fastest, just 2 kilometers an hour slower than Raffaele Marcello. So Porsche coming into the mix, and there you can see right in the mix, that's the second of them. That's Christian Engelhardt in 10th place with Dries van Toor all over his tail.
And we're both Dries van Toor now as they start the general climb up the hill into the Imola chicane. Nowhere to pass in the chicane itself. Of course, the Porsche is also looking to find a way around Fred Vervish. The 46, so up the hill, up into Chateau d'Eau, and gets very close to the back of the Porsche, but no space. Down the hill, he's close. Will he be brave? Will he be foolhardy in some cases? Down the hill, he's not close enough, in my view, to throw down the inside, so be patient, which he's done. He's got himself close to the back of the Porsche, now coming through this sort of tricky right-left chicane. Now he can do some good work if he can stick as closely to the back of Engelhardt as they go through Grand Curve and they go through Estoril. He might be in the pound seat to make a move on the Porsche.
But as he's focusing so hard on this Porsche, John, he won't even be able to see Raffaele Marcello, who is over 10, 12 seconds up the track and has just gained another 6/10 of a second over Maxi Götz. Almost into the 1 minute 36. The fastest lap of yesterday's race was 1 minute 36.5 seconds. Precisely for Raffaele. He did the second half of the race though, so the fuel load is so much lighter then, but he is doing what he needs to. But don't forget, it may also come down to the speed of the pit stops.
Watch for the undercut from Van Toor. He wasn't quite far enough into the corner to be able to get himself alongside Engelhardt on the exit out of Adelaide. And of course, he's thinking all the time about what's going up ahead of him. Once I get past Engelhardt, I've got to get past Vervish, and then I got past Christian Klein. None of these 3 cars are going to be the proverbial in the park.
Okay, though, let's ask the question. As and when he gets past Engelhardt, sets off, excuse me, the next car is a teammate, Fred Vervish. Will Fred let him through, championship challenger and all that?
Well, I think there's a bit of a story there. The 46 car is the car that's getting all the focus and attention from the media. I'll leave it there.
Good, I've cleared my throat, I'm back. But so great racing out there, but Raffaele Marcello is escaping, doing exactly what the plan was. And as hard as Fred Vavish is charging, you can see him in the right-hand side of the picture, he's got plenty of attention from Christian Engelhardt. One little slip-up from Engelhardt, and you can be sure that Dries van Tor will pounce. But Christian Klein leading the Prime class handsomely. In fact, the leading rival is Dean McDonald, but he is down at the tail of the field after that early unforced pit stop or undesired pit stop. So former Grand Prix racer Christian Klein doing a fantastic job, and it's great to have a McLaren at the front end of the field. Last year we were accustomed to that with Ben Barnicoat doing some great drives.
Rapiche, and he's now got the Porsche behind him. No, he was ahead of him at the time. The Porsche looked a little bit late on the brakes coming down in to Virage du Lycée. I thought maybe he was going to overrun the corner, but managed just to get it through.
Right, it's Patrick Niederhauser. No, it's Christopher Mies, of course. He's got into the right position to move into second place. This move, we've seen it several times, including Marcello yesterday, down through the Nürburgring sweeper. And Jim Pla was too wide, but he's run wide, and Patrick Niederhauser is trying to tuck himself up the inside. There was contact, there was what you call hip and shoulder, John, and it's cost him 2 positions. Will Klaus Bachler get into 4th? No way. Jim Pla is going, I got a little bit caught out there, but I was gentlemanly then. They weren't gentlemanly. They weren't nice to me, Mummy.
Yeah, that was sort of a moment where professional driver and professional driver, if it was an amateur or a non-pro driver, it might be looked at, but that was all caused by the Christopher Mies getting through. That opened up the opportunity for Niederhauser to slipstream or literally follow through. And Goetz got himself onto the outside of the 180, and he couldn't really shut the door in time to lose, in effect, 2 places in 1 corner. Yeah,
so Maxi Goetz back in the boiling pot that is the Fanatec GT world of racing. But now let's see what the natural pace is of Christopher Mies. This is down into 180. Christopher Mies is already passed, and then nothing happening, nothing to see apart from 2 cars rubbing each other. And unfortunately for Maxi Goetz, back to the outside at 180 and very nearly lost a further position.
Yeah, and of course by being pushed out wide, he got onto the dirtier part of the track. His tyres pick up all that whatever's on the racetrack, and that loses him further grip. As we go back to our race leader, 6.6 seconds ahead. He's almost the length of, from the Gulf corner all the way down into Adelaide. He's almost out of sight now from the 2nd place Christopher Mies.
Right, wind the clock back, John, about 5 minutes. We were talking about Dries van Tor picking up positions. He seems to have met his match in Christian Engelhardt. He's stuck in 11th place. And I did say he wouldn't be able to see Raffaele Marcello, but as you pointed out, even as the field comes out of Estoril, almost the car in 2nd place, almost Christopher Mies can't see Raffaele Marcello. Such is his advantage. And you know what? He's going faster still on this lap, banging in yet another fastest thing. Unfortunately, the 52 Ferrari has spun around, and that's Andrea Bertolini, who's been racing these cars since they were invented. But you must say the move from Nicola Baer helped him on his way.
I think there may have been a bit of outside assistance in that, but just going back to this battle, there we see now the 88 Mercedes, which had been a solid 2nd place, and then all in the space of a lap, 2 places dropped, and it's now Klaus Bachler in the 56 Porsche that's going to zone in to the back of Max Goetz. So he needs to regroup, but sometimes you get unsettled when people sort of elbow their way through, so he needs to refocus and get head down and continue. Christopher Haase in the number 11 Mercedes right now in 7th position.
And while all that was happening, waiting for Christopher Mies to settle down and set off after Raffaele Marcello, the challenge is even greater. Next closest thing to 7.5 seconds in arrears, 0.8 of a second gained by the dominant Swiss driver at the front of the field. Raffaele Marcello stretching his legs. He's making the job for his team all the easier. Yesterday, they certainly weren't the best at pit stops. 3.4 seconds slower than the pit stop when Charles Weerts handed to Dries van Tor. At the end of the race, the deficit was only 3.1 seconds. Do the maths yourself, but they can't afford another slow pit stop. But then again, maybe they can, because Raffaele Marcello is giving them this enormous buffer to play with. He's running clear, he's running clean on his own. He can pick his lines, and yet this must be the first lap in an age. He hasn't gone yet faster in the first sector. He's got this under control, though.
He has got it under control, but what's important for the Akotas team is what they would consider to be their principal championship rival. That's the 32 Audi. That's still hovering down outside the points in 11th position. And to find a way around Christian Engelhardt in the 54 Porsche will be difficult. Again, it'll maybe come during the round of pit stops, but 32 is the principal challenger right now in the championship to the 89 Mercedes, and they're sitting back thinking, well, who gave us this gift horse?
Right, what we have in this championship, the Sprint Series, 5 double-header meetings, but after 1.5 of those, that's the 2 races at Brands Hatch and yesterday's race here, Dries van Toor and Charles Weerts lead by 40.5 points ahead of Boguslavski and Marcello by 39. If it stays as it is, they're not going to be ahead. There'll be some distance behind with only 3 more double-header rounds. They are also leading outright the combined championship, the 52 Bertolini car in, not for a regular pit stop, but it could really upset the apple cart. And John's pointing to the bottom right-hand corner.
What's left of the tyre?
Yeah, could you bring a little more back to the pits, Mr. Bertolini?
So just to go back to what I was mentioning about the leading Mercedes and the position of the principal challenger, Dries van Toor, that gives them so much more flexibility. They may not be the quickest car when it comes to a round of pit stops, but their focus ultimately will be where is the 32, and that's where they'll be working from.
Oh, absolutely so. And also, where will they put him back into traffic? But the simple answer, if Raffaele continues as he is and runs as long as he can, they'll be putting Boguslavski back into no traffic at all. He should have a tidy, comfortable advantage. But we've heard when he was talking to Gemma down on the grid before the start of the race, he's planning to stay out as long as he can. He just seems masterful on his tyres. And yesterday, we thought, right, he's settling down, and there's still a little bit of debris in the track. Looks like tyre.
That's Bertolini's, I think, because we saw him in the pits with the tyre that was only about half the tyre remaining, and certainly there was rubber on the track there. So I think it's pretty much off the line, so it shouldn't be an issue. But the gap now up to 8 seconds, and we've still got, what, 7 minutes remaining before the pit window opens, and we know that Marcello is not going to come in at the earliest opportunity.
So even though Christopher Mies set his fastest lap of the race, he settles down to the chase in 2nd place overall, he still was losing ground. Dean McDonald was started really well in this race. He started 8th and suddenly he was last. He was in the pits. He's made a pit stop. Why? I'll show you why. Take a look at the blue McLaren. We're sitting in behind Fred Vervies, right? Gives him a rub, another rub before the start of the race. They're waiting, and then the field is released. But what pipped him to the back of the field? He must have picked up damage from that, and he came in. Dean McDonald is no longer last because he's gone past Andrea Bertolini, who's still sitting in the pits in that 52 Ferrari. But he's running in the Pro-Am class. As long as he continues, he's good for the points for 3rd place, which will really help the championship challenge for that Garage 59 McLaren crew.
So this is the group of cars running in 5th through 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th. Christian Klein in that 8th place. Fred Vervies behind him. Christian Engelhardt chasing. Alex Arca, and where has Dries van Toor? 11th.
Still in 11th, he's finally finding some pace, but frustrating. Not as frustrating for Andrea Bertolini and his teammate Louis Michiels, long-term Belgian Ferrari racer, because the 52, we saw it in the pits, has retired. It wasn't down to just that, clearly more than just ripping the tyre off the rim of that wheel, so very frustrating for them. And a little bit of help, it must be said, by the looks of things. The 26 Sansalok Audi seem to be in very close company at the top of the hill. Riding on board with Fred Vervies, he's pushing, working his way around, still in 9th place though. Can't topple Christian Klein, the leading Pro-Am runner, the leading Pro-Am runner on points as well.
The McLaren is slightly slower into these slow corners, but of course he's got the real estate, he's got the track position, then he accelerates hard off the corner, so he's sort of backing up all those behind him, and there's not an awful lot they can do. Dries van Toor still pounding away, and he's into 10th place. He's got round Alex Arca, so he's now onto the back of the Porsche Christian Engelhardt, and there is the reason why, because that car is coming in slowly.
Exactly. I was just looking to see who'd shed, and that's Christopher Haase. They were starting poorly. Everyone else move up one. So Alex Arca had already been passed by Dries van Toor about 4 or 5 laps ago. And not all that car seems to be level as it approaches the pit lane.
But it didn't. It continued on a lap. It didn't come into the pits. So what was wrong with Christopher Haase? We do not know.
Well, I can tell you what was wrong, in the fact he was 40 seconds a lap slower than a typical lap time. So there must have been an enterprising moment. And we will wait and watch for all of that.
So Vervies again later on the brakes than Christian Klein, looking to find a way around the 180. Looks to stick his nose up the inside, but the McLaren prevents any opportunity. Again, Christian Klein is able to use his position to be slower in the corner than the following Audi, but that little bit quicker off the corner. But again, this whole sort of effect a stacking exercise by the McLaren driver.
Right, what do you do? Pit window is going to open in just over, well, nearly 4 minutes' time. If you're stuck at the back of a train of cars and you feel your co-driver is as quick as you are, you might as well pit, because you can see a lot of drivers, including Dries Vanthoor in the 32 Audi, are just being frustrated. They can't get around the car in front. In Dries's case, we're looking at the tail of it. It's the Christian Engelhardt, number 54, Dynamic Motorsport Porsche. He's been on its tail for a long time. There is no change being given.
No, all 4 cars running similar pace. Christian Klein, there we see the lead McLaren is the one that's controlling the pace of all those behind, and that's frustrating because those following cars have lost what I would call their natural momentum, their natural pace, and their pace is now being controlled by Christian Klein, and he's doing that very successfully. He's got straight line performance, which is important here on the straight, but then when he gets to the corner, he's a little bit earlier in the brakes. You see how much Verviche runs him down in Adelaide hairpin, but now again under acceleration, McLaren is pulling, stretching that advantage, and it's a seesaw exercise. Frustrating for Verviche, for Engelhardt, for Vanthoor and Arca. There's nothing they've been able to do over the last 6 or so laps.
Well, the Audis have looked fantastically well balanced around here, but we do start to see the front end of those Audis just washing away a little bit in the tighter corners. They more than make up for it elsewhere, but it does remove one of their possible challenging places, and the car that's best in the tight corner is the Mercedes AMG, particularly in the hands of Raffaele Marcello, who seems to be able to put the power down way earlier, have the traction for the grunt out of the corners. Christian Klein, though, carrying the camera car, the cameras, the JP Motorsport McLaren, not putting a wheel wrong. It's been a fantastic drive for him. Of course, he doesn't have to battle with these cars, but he wants to finish as high as he can, but he's leading the Pro-Am class.
He is.
Now, let's take a look at the speeds, though, John. Overall, top speed, 255. It's a McLaren. We know they're fast in a straight line. It's Ethan Simeone, the Canadian racer. He's not at the sharp end of the field. He's in 15th place overall of the 23 cars still going, but quick in a straight line.
And Christian Klein, 252. Not the quickest, but sufficiently quick to keep those behind him. And there is the end of the race, and that will be a huge disappointment as race leader exits out of Adelaide and continues on his way. 9.9 seconds advantage at the end of lap 14, and there's another, well, we haven't even opened the pit stop window yet. We've got another minute and a half before that will open. So who will opt to come in at the earliest opportunity? But Thor having a little sniff, and no, what's another spin? 20, what was that all about?
Well, Nicolas Baer, he'd already been in the wars, and yeah, he's now been in the gravel as well.
Second time in the gravel coming through Grand Curb.
It's a tempting corner to just go in really, well, you have to go in really fast. He was just obviously a modicum too much. So for his teammate Gilles Magnus, they picked up a top result yesterday. Very, very strong indeed. But unfortunately today, they're not going to win the Silver Cup class. They were 6th overall, and today that they were down just around 20th position at the moment. So for Gilles Magnus, he won't have a position he wants to pick up. I honestly think Charles Weerts will be first to take over. There he was in the pits, lined up, waiting to take over from Dries Vanthoor. Dries has had, what, half a dozen, if not more, laps on the tail of Christian Engelhardt. He picked off 2 or 3 cars, got onto the tail of the Porsche, and Christian Engelhardt is not going to leave any gap for the Belgian to go to.
So this is going to be an early stop for WRT to change drivers, change wheels and tyres. It's where they get back out on the racetrack that will be key.
And he can't quite come in now. It's got to be the next lap. It's got to be between 35 minutes left and 25 minutes. So next time around is probably the time of calling for that WRT Audi. I'm going to note down the positions before the pit stops. And Christopher Haase, we're just hearing, we saw that white and red Tracer by Car Collection Audi in the pit lane. Gearbox was the problem. That too is out of the race. 22 cars remain.
Vanthoor had to go down a gear when he was in this line of 4 cars. So he had to go down a gear to get the drive off Estoril. So that's, again, something you wouldn't anticipate doing. Looking at the top speed as he comes down in, maybe just under 250. Gets alongside Engelhardt on the outside, but the wrong part of the corner. He might want to make the undercut to come back, but again, the Porsche's got good traction. Remember, the engine's hung out the back, and he gets good drive.
Right, we've already had the first official pit window visitor. That was Nicolas Baer. After that moment at Grand Corps, he was far enough back to be within the pit window before he came past pit in to have to do another lap. So it won't move him anywhere, but he'll have the pit lane to himself. There he is for Santalot Racing. They can changed all 4 tyres, they've changed the driver. Gilles Magnus will take over, the fellow Belgian racer. Let's see what he can do, but their race has already been blotted, it must be said. Right, first to second, it was 9.49 seconds. It's 10.55 seconds. Raffaele Marcello ahead of Christopher Mies. Those lap times from Marcello, 1 minute 37.2, 1 minute 37.0, 1 minute 37.1. Nobody else can yet get close to those. Best of the rest is, in fact, the driver in second place, 1 minute 37.5. That's Christopher Mies. But for those behind, hats off to Christian Klein. And here comes, as predicted, back of that pack, going nowhere fast, frustrated, Dries van Tor in from 10th place.
And we've seen a pretty unhappy look at Dries van Tor pretty much through the weekend, albeit he won the race yesterday. But there is the WRT team ready to go and do their work, and they do probably the best consistent pit stops throughout the entire field. So 40.1 was their time in driver change, 4 wheels and tires changed, back out again. So they'll be looking to repeat that 40.1 or within a tenth or two of a second.
Okay, a little figure I want to throw at you. Just a whisker under 11 seconds was Raffaele Marcello's advantage over Christopher Mies, the gap between first and second before the pit stops. And immediately Raffaele Marcello bangs in suddenly the fastest first sector of anyone. Clearly 11 seconds or thereabouts is not enough in his mind. He's going to push on, stay on as long as he can.
40.5, 4 tenths of a second down, but still a stellar pit stop for WRT. Another cracking pit stop to get them, and that will gain them track positions. By the time the entire field washes through their mandatory pit stops, that will probably elevate them maybe 3-4 places. It could put them ahead of Christian Klein. Remember, he was the 4th car on line behind Christian Klein.
Right, one we have to look for. What was his pace of 46.3? Nearly 6 seconds gained on Ulysses de Pauw's Ferrari, so he could be gaining 4 or 5 positions if everybody else laps. Their pit stop isn't slow as Ulysses de Pauw. So WRT, they have done their part of the equation.
Likewise, attempt to racing. They did a great stop for Dennis Marshall to take over from Peter Northrup to 40.7, so very small difference. Great stop, 2 tenths of a second between those 2 Audi teams. 2 different teams, but both doing outstanding pit stops.
They really were. Sort of average pit stop time is about 43 and a bit seconds. So anything in the 40s, we've had 2 of them will really give the drivers a chance, and certainly the cars get close here. Right, here's another pit stop. It's also Team WRT, the masters of the craft, but for Fred Vervisch, it's money for nothing. He's been doing this for years, but for Valentino Rossi, of course, changed from 2 wheels to 4. He has to still learn this process, and in a sprint race, you can't spare a second.
So the 87 Mercedes, their Konus car driven by, now it is driven by Thomas Drouet. They did a pit stop 43.2. So that's a Mercedes pit stop against an Audi pit stop. So the difference is 3 and a bit seconds.
Yeah, I can throw you Akakodis ASP have just done one in 42 seconds flat. That was Jim Pla taking over from Maxi Götz. That may yet promote it ahead of the Santalok 25 Audi. And during the pit stop, Team WRT, you can see the 32 car. That is Dries van Tor, handed to Charles Weerts, and Weerts is now ahead of the 46. And don't forget, that was 2 positions further ahead of him up the track before those pit stops. So again, that is very, very tidy work. And you can see you can run close, but getting past at Magny Cours is not the work of a moment. And well, they've done what they can.
When you do get into a line of cars and the lead car of that line isn't running potentially at the speed you can, but finding the way through has always been, whatever racetrack we visit, these cars are so equally matched in performance. The balance of performance is now such a successful balance of performance. Very little you can do. Christian Klein again got the Porsche behind, and still Christian Engelhardt looking for a way around, and nothing he's been able to do.
Okay, what we need to consider here is Raffaele Marcello and Timo Bogoslawski surely with an advantage of just under 13 seconds before Raffaele comes in. That's enough, barring mistakes, barring disasters. The battle for second place at the moment, Christopher Mies in the 33 Audi from Team WRT, Patrick Niederhauser is just half a second behind in the 25 Santalok Racing Audi. Their pit crews could decide their battle, because certainly they're in very well balanced driver lineups, but they are the ones that are close enough for a real change.
Where's Engelhardt? No, I thought he was looking up the inside, but he doesn't have the track position to do so, as we once again go back to our race leader. Last time through, 12.9 seconds advantage over the 33 Audi up to the top of the circuit. Chateau, then the drop down, runs a little bit wide. Everything looks in control. He's just sitting there having his lovely, one might say, a gentle Sunday afternoon run.
Except, John, except the fact he is still lapping consistently 1 minute 37.1, 1 minute 37.0, and that's not enough. He just got the fastest second sector time of anybody, no doubt beating his previous mark. In fact, he's fastest in all 3 sectors. Pit window is still open for another 4 minutes, but this battle for second place on the track, Christopher Mies, number 33, being pushed hard by Santalot Racing's Patrick Niederhauser. Which of them is going to blink? You certainly think it's down to the pit crews. They must be having sweaty parts. I could either make it or break it for my driver.
13.9 seconds over a second. That last lap was the advantage to the Mercedes. So Christopher Mies, and he's only got a half a second advantage over Patrick Niederhauser in the 3rd place Audi. So his focus now really is defending his 2nd place rather than, there's nothing he could do. The challenge to the Mercedes was lost when they went into Grand Curb on the opening lap.
Right, of course, you have to consider who's taking over. Christopher Mies will hand over to Jean-Baptiste Simonauer. Not that much experience, whereas Patrick Niederhauser will be handing over to Aurélien Panis. So that ought to give an overall race advantage to the chasing Santalot crew in the 25 Audi. Dynamic Motorsport getting through its pit stops, and race lead nearly 14 seconds, 13.9 seconds. Raffaele Marcello just put in the fastest lap of the race, the first driver into the 1 minute 36 second bracket in this race, but it will be time very soon indeed for him to hand over, maybe in one further lap for Timo Bogoslawski, and that will be a very tidy cushion. And then we'll have to scramble in the pits between these two, between 2nd place Christopher Mies, the 33 Audi, from the 25 Santalot Audi of Patrick Niederhauser. This is going to be tight.
So is he going to come in now? No, he's going to stay on, take that one additional lap. He's got plenty of time in which to complete the lap before he will end up making his pit stop and handing over to Timo Bogoslawski as we see 2nd and 3rd. Still status quo coming through the Virage du Lycée.
They're both going in.
One's going in. So
it's the right way round. If I was to the Santalot team, I'd have said, get in. We'll see if we can do you a good pit stop, and then you're going to hand over to Aurélien Panis, whereas Christopher Mies is going around one more time, and Jean-Baptiste Simonauer will take a look. Now again, top speed of the Imola S, it's the Mercedes, it's the 89 and 88, Raffaele Marcello and Maximilian Goetz. They started on the front row, and that is possibly one of the reasons why. So good up the hill.
Yeah, so with the 2 team Mercedes, identical times through Imola, as the Audi goes about its service, getting the left front off, back on, drop the car. The left rear is going to be completed likewise. So then car off the jacks, it's got rolling down the pit lane, and we wait to see what Aurélien Panis will do. And is that the race? So that's not the race leader in. It's Aurélien Panis back out.
Oh, 45.3. That unfortunately is going to hurt. Just to remind you, for Dries Van Toor, it was 40.5 seconds for his pit stop. Who else is in the pits at the moment? Igor Valilko will be handing over to the 86 Mercedes, and still it's now 14 seconds to good for Raffaele Marcello. Pit window still open for another minute. Christopher Mies surely coming in this time around.
Yeah, but the 88 Mercedes has gotten around because of that pit stop ahead of the Audi as a consequence of the relatively slow stop. So we're coming to the conclusion, only just under a minute for the pit window to be open. There is the 32 still, so it's going to be a tight, they'll get back in time as we see race leader into the pits. So well done, Raffaele Marcello, your job is done, and they hand over to, there he is, Timo Bogoslawski. So this is a key pit stop. It's more haste, less speed. Don't get spooked or panicked into trying to do a sub 40-second pit stop. Anything in 41, 42, 43 seconds, more than adequate.
Clock still ticking. Also Christopher Mies in from that 2nd place, the 33 Audi, but he's with Team WRT. We've said it before, we'll no doubt say it again. They are super quick on the stop. Let's see. Doesn't even matter if it's a 45-second pit stop for Raffaele Marcello to hand over that 89 Mercedes. It's and they put in a big one, 40.7. They'd matched Team WRT. They didn't need to. Such was the advantage that the Swiss racer had built up. But that's a matter of pride for Jerome Policon.
I was going to say they did need to, because it was a matter of pride. They were sort of put in the back foot by their pit stop on Saturday evening, but they've recovered with an excellent pit stop, 40.7. They get a 40.5, we think, for the quickest of the Audis.
Yep, and 40.5 was, Jean-Baptiste Simonauer taking over from Christopher Mies. This car should be into 2nd place with that. And then we will see, as all the drivers have done their pit stops, all the cars have come in, the pit window is closed. the positions out on the track. We can tell you the 89 Mercedes, now in the hands of Timo Bogoslawski, is leading the race. The big question is, how far up the charts will Charles Weerts come? Of course, that was one of the first cars in the top 10 to pit. At the moment, at the end of this lap, will give you a clear picture. A couple of cars still rejoining the circuit after their pit stops, but maybe they've gained 2, 3, 4 positions. They were 10th before the pit stops. Where will they be? The championship leading car, the 32 Team WRT Audi. I'll let you know in a matter of moments.
Cheever chasing Malaco down the straight, identical cars, no difference in straight line performance, so Cheever will want to find a way, if it's possible, to get around. It runs right up to the back of the sister Mercedes, then out of Adelaide. Again, having to wait for that car directly ahead of him. He can't drive into the back of it and dodge him out of the way.
Right, if any of the teams had done a pit stop in not 40, the low 40s, but in the mid 50s, that would be a disaster, except if you're JP Motorsport, because his was 53.7. Right, 33, hitting the deck, brought in beautifully from Christopher Meath, bam, onto terra firma. But I think it got very close indeed to one of the McLarens, and so it did. It was in the final pit garage, and that, look at it from head on. Ooh. Well done to the McLaren driver for avoiding that. But
that could be deemed an unsafe release, because the McLaren had to take avoiding action. He was in the outside lane, in the pit lane, and that was a very marginal call. So we wait and see. Maybe nothing will happen, but maybe there'll be a time penalty.
Okay, what I can tell you, that 33 Audi is 16.3 seconds down on the race leader, Timo Bogoslawski, leading the way in his Mercedes. Jean-Baptiste Semenau, we've just seen that interesting pit exit. He's 16.3 seconds down, can't challenge. I want you to know where Charles Weerts was. 10th before the pit stops, 6th after the pit stops, right on the tail of Pierre-Alexandre Jean. So that was a good move by the team, but again, frustration for Dries Van Tor. Wide on the first corner of the opening lap, dropped 10 positions. They're fighting back. They're fighters. They've got 22 minutes remaining. Let's see how high they can climb.
Yeah, I mean, a totally uncharacteristic error by Dries Van Tor on the opening corner of the opening lap. And really, it's been a battle of recovery for that 32 Audi, but because of the excellent pit stop, that very early pit stop got him up into 6th place.
Right, Don, there's a bit of irony here. The car that pushed him wide, not with the same driver, of course the drivers have both changed, is the car right in front of him. It's that 53 Audi. Ulysses de Pauw went up with a better start up the inside of Dries Van Tor. Someone was inside him, and Dries just got shuffled onto the outside at the Grand Curb, and then he had to pay the price, bouncing through the gravel.
Well, he did what he thought was the right thing. He's going to make himself a little bit of space, but that space just evaporated, and all of a sudden he found himself running wide. But there's a little battle, the two Porsches pinching the Audi coming down the hill. So Giorgio Roda, and wow, is it going to be clean? It is clean. So Porsche runs wide. Can the Audi get alongside? Indeed it does before they go into this final. S is on to start finish straight. So good bit of driving there to clear 2 cars in the space of, what, 2 corners.
Very good indeed. So the car's cleared with Giorgio Roda, and it's on our screens as Christian Engelhardt, but he did the first stint in the race. It should be Adrian Delina, Belgian driver racing under a British race licence.
Valentino Rossi passes a race car on the racetrack. Remember the day.
I think, just looking to see if the second of those Porsches, Giorgio Roda, had picked up a bit of a puncture. He's certainly falling off the pace. The other Porsche went up the inside. I thought there might have been a rub, but I'm not taking it away from Valentino Rossi. So he's almost in the points. He's in 12th. Points go down to 10th place. Now, let's hope he can settle down, get into the ribbon. Keep it clean, keep it consistent, and maybe he'll pick off another car. Next one in front is Nicolas Scholl, the 99 Intento Racing Audi.
What he needs is a solid race, no incidents, just allow him to do what he's got the capacity to do, and that is bed himself in. He's racing in a highly competitive championship, and he's got people all around him who know these cars inside out. So he's on that vertical learning curve, and he will make mistakes, and there's nothing to be ashamed of. That's a part of the vertical learning curve that he's got to go through.
Absolutely is. Right, at the front of the field, there is the car started by Fred Vavish, now driven by Valentino Rossi, 12th place. Giorgio Roda doesn't have a punch, he's just running behind him on the circuit. But up front, Timo Bogoslawski setting almost identical lap speeds to Jean-Baptiste Semenau in that 33 WRT Audi. In fact, he's lost a 10th of a second, but he's got lots of tenths of seconds to lose because he's 16 and a bit seconds up the track in the lead. What's left on the clock? Just under 20 minutes.
Well, this is a mirror of what we saw in race 2 at Brands Hatch. Marcello did a sterling job to hand the car over to Bogoslawski. And as long as Boguslawski's got that clear air, he's not having to overtake back markers, not currently anyway, may come a bit towards the end of his stint, but right now he can get himself into the car, established, build a rhythm, and just keep knocking out metronomic laps. And he should be in a very comfortable position as the third place car, Jim Pla. He's 1.5 seconds behind Simonauer in the second place Audi. I don't know whether Pla's got the pace.
I potentially think he has. And Jean-Baptiste Simonauer, we're talking about Valentino Rossi crossing over from 2 wheels to 4 to learn these GT3 cars. But Jean-Baptiste, until this season, has been racing in the Porsche Super Cup and the French Porsche Series. So he too is transferring. He's sitting in that second position. He's 1.5 seconds up on Jim Pla, but Jim Pla's got so much GT3 experience. I think it's going to be Frenchman on Frenchman. And in fact, let's throw in another Frenchman in 4th place. Aurélien Panis is catching the pair of them.
Yeah, Panis of the 3 cars was the quickest by about 2 or 3 tenths of a second. Not a massive amount, but he'll see the gaps gradually closing. But whether it'll close to the point where he's in a position to challenge, to move up into 3rd place, get past Jim Pla, that'll be a tall task.
Pierre-Alexandre Jean, not so many years ago, was racing in GT4 as a young teenager, has developed his craft, he's moved to GT3, he's moved manufacturers and racing for Ferrari this year, already a winner at Brands Hatch, leading the Silver Cup in 5th place overall. So they've had first 2 races, they won overall and took Silver Cup victory, and then 5th place in Silver Cup victory, driving well, John.
Interestingly, you can hear him having to breathe the throttle going into Grand Curve, whereas what we've seen from the 89 Mercedes is they can carry the virtually full throttle all the way through Grand Curve, but then they've got to get it slowed down to turn back to the right. But that's just an indication of either the confidence or the balance, or maybe a case of both between the Ferrari and the lead Mercedes.
Yeah, looking at Eddie Cheever, and of course when you think of Sky Tempesta racing the last couple of years, it's been Ferrari mounted. This year they've moved to the Mercedes, they're learning as they go. Chris Froggatt took a manoeuvre. Now let's ride on board the 93 and watch the overtaking manoeuvre. Pushing hard, and it's the Sky Tempesta Mercedes. Eddie Cheever right on the tail of the Mercedes in front. That's Pedro Uberescu, and he is out of the way and place gained only from 18th to 17th, but you pick your moment and make it work.
I mean, that was about experience, Cheever's experience. He read the situation, he saw Uberescu come across to the left to go down into Chateau d'Eau, and he just stuck his Sky Tempesta Ferrari into the bit of real estate, and no problem whatsoever. You can see how much the gap has opened up in the space of less than half a lap.
Certainly has. Right, 2nd, 3rd and 4th, Jean-Baptiste Simonauer, the yellow-nosed Mercedes of Jim Pla, and Aurélien Panis behind in the Sansalot Racing Audi was 4th yesterday, and looks as though they could be heading for 4th again today, cementing their meeting. Gap between 1st, which is Timo Boguslawski, and this driver, Jean-Baptiste Simonauer in the 33 Audi, staying static, 16.4 seconds, 16.2 seconds, and so with every further lap, it's closer to victory for Timo Boguslawski. And then busy times around the middle order, and that is Thomas Drouet gaining another position, pushing on hard, but not yet in the top 10. Giorgio Roda is the one who's been picked off in that dynamic motorsport Porsche, number 56.
Yeah, the 87 Mercedes, it has been a quick car, different point. Casper Stevenson, the young Brit, 18 or 19 or 20, I think he's 18, 19, 20, whatever
19,
it is.
I think.
He certainly hasn't reached the age of majority, I can tell you that.
Well, learning as they go. Eddie Cheever, in fact, we just saw him a few moments ago, has just set that Mercedes his fastest lap in 17th place overall, but he's got 3 seconds to find to catch Patrick Krupinski, but Krupinski doesn't have to fight him. He's in that 111 JP Motorsport McLaren, large in your screen, because he's the dominant force at the moment in the Pro-Am. He's heading for maximum Pro-Am points in 16th overall. The next best place is Hugo Delacour in the number 21 AF Corsa Ferrari.
The reason the McLaren is dropped down in terms of overall position is because they had, frankly, an appalling pit stop, 53.7 seconds, and that's, I mean, it's not to do with the pace of the car or the pace of the drivers, it's because the pace in the pit lane, abysmal is the word that comes to mind.
Well, they didn't have any pressure on them because at the time before the pit stops, that was running in 6th or 7th place overall. I could look at my notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th, and no pressure, but you should have still been able to put the driver change in clumsy 45 seconds.
Absolutely. So, I mean, okay, they're having their own battle in their own class, which is perfectly fine. That's what their objective is, to win. Oh, and the Lamborghini again coming out of Estoril, gets way wide onto the gravel, but continues on as if nothing. Did it really happen? Well, yes, it did.
Went into the gravel yesterday, went into the gravel at the start of the race. Driver change from Isak to Tumlu to Gerhard Teresa, and off once more for GSM Nova Marine. Now, this is the battle for 5th place. Pierre-Alexandre Jean being hunted down and gained a lot in recent laps. 0.3 of a second, followed by best part of 0.3 of a second. Charles Weerts getting closer. Now, let's see what Pierre-Alexandre Jean can do. His first season in the Ferrari, learning as he goes, and it's certainly not Charles Weerts' first season in a WRT Audi. Pushing, chasing, closing.
Charles Weerts is on a charge. You can see again coming into 180. The attitude of the car, under braking, late on the brakes, pushing hard. He can get himself a usual story to the tail of the Ferrari. He will need something from Pierre-Alexandre Jean to make that pass a viable opportunity. A little bit of a skip and a jump for Charles Weerts up at Chateau d'Eau, but I mean, in reality, it makes little difference. So where can you find a way around? Well, we know all the usual places. Maybe you've got to think a bit outside the box and look for somewhere that might catch the Ferrari off guard.
I like to give people hope, but even though Jean-Baptiste Simonau in second place closed a little on Timo Boguslavski, it's still 16 seconds. So you have to say with 13 minutes left on the board, that is plenty. But will this battle for second place, John, Baptiste Simonau and Jim Pla stay as it is? I think Pla is starting to close.
Pla is putting pressure on Simonau, and you can see there in the timing, 3/10 over half a second. So those last 3 laps have brought the third place Mercedes into play with the second place Audi, and there's a bit of a hurry up going on here. Simonau, hurry up, otherwise I'm going to take your second place. And that's the reason why the gap between first and second has come down by maybe a few hundredths of a second. It's not even a relevant amount of time lost.
Yeah, well, in fact, last time around, John, the difference between them was 0.3 of a second. If he takes another 0.3 of a second, he'll be right on the tail of that second place Audi. That is Jim's task. He's been absolutely fantastic in GT4 cars, GT3 cars for a large number of years. Moved across from single-seaters and been racing Mercedes for a long time. So there are no mysteries for him. But Jean-Baptiste, as I said, largely been racing Porsches, not in GT3, but in the Super Cup class, the Middle East Championship over the years. Doesn't have the experience. And as the tyres start to go away, I think he's going to struggle a little bit. But he's doing a great job in second place at the moment.
And on board with Aurélien Panis coming down the hill. Careful not to outbrake yourself, turning into this tight, it's a slow in, quick out corner, and position yourself to get almost a clean sweep through that. It's a very unpleasant little left, right, left, back onto pit straight. So there is second place, there is third place, there is fourth place, all covered by the metaphorical handkerchief.
Now again, I was just looking at the way that Pla in the yellow and black Mercedes could put the power down, going into that final right-left flicked onto the start-finish straight, just seems to get the grunt. And in those tight corners, Adelaide hairpin at the top of the hill, 180, that long, sharp left-hander where you come back up the hill, the Mercedes is great, and also the punch onto the start-finish straight. But that time around, the lap time seemed very much equal between the two. But this time around, Pla is closer.
Well, for the first time in a long time, the gap between race leader Boguslavski and Simonau in second place is now 15.6 seconds, but only 11 minutes of the race remaining, and you're looking at taking more than a second a lap, if that's what you've got in reserve, out of Boguslavski. It isn't going to happen. All that could happen is something that's unpredictable, and that could only occur if the race leader comes up against some of the back markers and he finds himself out of position and compromised.
Well, while we look at that battle for second place, Simonau, Pla and Panis, you have to wait and wait, and here comes the battle for fifth, and there's no change being given by Pierre-Alexandre Jean in the white Ferrari from AF Corse to Charles Weerts. Charles looks like he's stuck in sixth place overall. Silver Cup will be going towards Pierre-Alexandre Jean. No one close to him in the class. The next best is Nicolas Scholl, who's down in ninth position. But this battle for fifth looks as though there's going to be no change, which will lead to frustration. Looking at the feet at the top of the screen, left foot braking, a real favourite. John doesn't like it particularly, not something that you did in your rally driving days, John.
No, I was a right foot braker, and I used to concentrate on braking. I didn't roll my foot and flip the throttle. I like to focus purely on the braking, then take the gear for the particular corner I was coming to, rather than going 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd. So that was my way of doing it. It worked for me, and I find it the most comfortable manner.
Certainly did, but Pierre-Alexandre Jean in the white Ferrari looks very well balanced, and really I can't see anywhere around the course of the circuit that Charles Weerts is able to take chunks of time out of them. WRT did a great job in the pit stop, really gave Dries van Toor to Charles Weerts a real push, gained them 4 places, so pat on the back for them. But Charles can go no further, surely, in this final 10 minutes. Is a little bit closer, though.
It is fractured. Just watching the feet of Alexander Pierrejean, just the way I noticed this last year with the Ferrari, seemed to have a very long stroke on the brake pedal. Something I didn't particularly like, but that's whatever these drivers are happy with, so they get used to it. Also, the way the brake pedal is in relation to your seating position. To me, the pedal should be facing back towards the driver a little bit, get the maximum leverage on that arc as the the pedal goes further forward. Dries van Toor, he's got a face like a smacked baby at the minute. He's had a bad weekend by his standards, in spite of what happened yesterday.
Just to remind you, they took victory. Charles Weerts and Dries van Toor took victory, but today it was all but thrown out of the window with that moment at the first corner of the opening lap. The Grand Cours pushed to the outside into the gravel, had to come off the power. Instead of coming through the corner in 4th or 5th, came through in 14th position. Thereafter, it's been a story of recovery. But before the race even, he was saying, don't know what we can do about that lead Mercedes that Raffaele Marcello gave a 16-second advantage just before the pit window closed and handed over to Timo Bogoslawski. It's sitting at 15.4 now.
Keep an eye on Cheever, because he's getting involved in this battle right now for 16th position with the McLaren, then 15th with Roda and the Porsche up the inside. So he's made the pass on one of them up at Chateau d'Eau, so he'll be happy with that. And in fact, the McLaren just about can keep the Mercedes of Morescu behind him down the hill. The McLaren a little bit late on the brakes, just about recovers, getting through Chateau Lycée and on to start-finish straight. And here we go on to lap 32.
On to lap 32, just under 8 minutes remain. And though Patrick Krapinski, off that very slow driver change and pit stop from Christian Klein, has fallen from inside the top 10 down to 17th position, he's still 4 positions and a dozen seconds clear of the best of the rest in the prime class, which is Hugo Delacour.
Cheever gets through because the Porsche must have made an error. We didn't see it. But look at the McLaren, look at the pace the McLaren has picked up as they come down the straight. 5 cars almost side by side, and wow, well, a certain lack of awareness, spatial awareness at the back of that group of cars. But Cheever fights his way. He's got to find a way past the Mercedes. He might do what we saw Raffaele Marcello do, just get alongside and take that position away, and that's what he has done.
I think the one that's quickest in that grouping is Gilles Magnus in the 26 Sansalot Racing Audi. Yeah, he's about to pick off the McLaren. Or is he down the inside? No, he isn't, but he's getting frustrated by the pace. He's caught this group. He's picked off one of them. He's picked off the Porsche. That's not been a problem. Giorgio Roda has largely spent this session going back down the order, but just expect any moment now that red Audi to gain another position. But that is running in the Silver Cup class, not at the front end, because the front end of the Silver Cup class is 5th overall. That's Pierre-Alexandre Jean.
I was going to say best chances up into, and it does Chateau d'Eau, so the McLaren overruns going into the corner under brakes, so that's a disappointment for Kapinski. And well, he's trying to come back. I mean, the McLaren has got really strong straight line performance, but on the wrong part of the racetrack to do anything about it. Down into Virage du Lycée, on board with Patrick Kapinski and the McLaren. So the straight line speed of the McLaren, we've seen that from earlier times that we're getting on screen, has been impressive.
Meanwhile, with just under 6 minutes remaining in this second one-hour race at Magny Cours, it's almost 15 seconds, the margin. Been Timo Bogoslawski leading for a Codis ASP in his Mercedes, and the best of the rest, Jean-Baptiste Simonard. I thought Jim Pla in the second of the Mercedes from a Codis ASP would have found his way into second place, but Simonard is showing that he's really learning these GTP cars very well indeed. 14 and a bit, 15 seconds down on the race leader, but resisting all the pressure from the experienced Pla. And here they are into that final sequence of corners, into the little right-left flick onto the start-finish straight. I also thought that Aurélien Panis in that blue Audi in the background might be starting to make some moves. Jim Pla, right, that's it, I'm flashing my headlights at you. Almost a point of desperation, John.
Yeah, I mean, flashing your headlights against a competitive car. Audi runs very wide as the transition from Grand Curve. Is that going to give Jim Pla any hope at all?
Time
doesn't appear to be the case.
10 seconds to car 33 for unsafe release, and 5-second time penalty to car 25 for causing a collision. Those time penalties will be added to the final racing time.
No surprise at that penalty being issued, because it was a very late release and it did compromise the McLaren coming down the pit lane. So that's going to take Seminara out of the podium positions.
And also the driver who's getting the 5-second penalty is the third of that trio. Let's take a look at how Jean-Baptiste Seminara was released right in front. Well, he was alongside the McLaren, just kept on pulling over across its nose. So that will be 10 seconds added to his time. That will knock him down from second place, potentially as far as maybe fifth, may just be ahead of Pierre-Alexandre Jean.
The wave yellow flag in the background, but can't see what that's for.
Okay, while we're just looking for that Aurélien
there it
Panis.
is.
Oh, it's Umberescu who's, well, we see cars go off at Grand Cours and rejoin at Estoril. That's been the case for him. That will drop him from 16th further down the order. But just to finish what I was saying, Santilot Racing, they're getting the 5-second penalty. They're in 4th place overall, but that should still them. It should drop basically Simonauer to 3rd. Panis will stay in 4th. He's more than 5 seconds clear of Pierre-Alexandre Jean. And therefore there should be no further changes in the front end of the field. So Jim Pla will go into 2nd place to make it in the Codis ASP Mercedes 1-2, because certainly the first position, the victory will go to Timo Bogoslawski. Look, we've got 3.5 minutes remaining, John. He's sitting on that buffer, 14.5 seconds.
And I hope the team have given him that message. He doesn't need to challenge the 33 ID. All he has to do is keep an eye on the 25 behind.
Now, let's see why Petro Umberescu went to the gravel. Because he wanted to. Nobody put him there. I'm afraid he just simply ran too wide into that corner. It lures them in, John, into Grand Cours, and then when you realise it's too late.
Well, the entry into the corner is critical. We know that the Mercedes, or certainly in the case of the 89, can go through the first part of Grand Cours flat out. But in the case of Umberescu, he was too far to the right entering in, picked up the dirtier bit of the racetrack, which dragged him ultimately into that gravel trap, and then the bounce all the way through it, and
Right, looking for any potential further changes. Matthias Drudy, remember his car started in the hands of his teammate down in 17th position overall, not where you expected to find them, and that was Luca Giotto, who clearly didn't get it right in qualifying. Yesterday it went 13th to 5th, today it's gone 18th, up to 8th so far, and may yet just be able to pick off one more. Just past Nicholas Scholl to take 8th place. Next target, the other attempt to Audi, Peter Schotthorst hanging on, but certainly again Matthias Drudy making the best of a bad situation, but the making the best of a very, very good situation is Timo Bogoslawski. Yes, 14 and a bit seconds clear, still waiting for Jean-Baptiste Simonauer to come through. Of course, he's got a 10-second penalty to be added to his times, but his margin, yeah, it's still 14 and a bit seconds.
So all calm down in the 89 garage at Codis ASP. They did a great job in getting the car to run at this level of performance, but actually it was that pit stop that really sealed it for them.
So running wide there from Jim Pla. That's not what he wanted to do, but the car in front's got a 10-second penalty. The car behind has got a 5-second penalty, so should be safe in the 2nd place that he will adopt once the time penalties are being added. But Timo Bogoslawski lapping slightly slower than those that chase. Doesn't matter. 1.5 minutes remaining. He's sitting on a huge buffer by GT3 standards.
Well, the 2nd place is not the Audi, it's actually Jim Pla. So the gap is actually 14.7 seconds to 2nd place, not the 14.3 we see, because the Audi that is on the road in 2nd place is going to fall back due to the penalty.
And just to go do the housework at the moment, not quite at the end of this 1-hour race, but 5th place overall is the leading car in the Silver Cup. That's Pierre-Alexandre Jean. So yet more points for him and Ulysses Depot in that part of the championship. Patrick Kropinski, we've seen that 1-1-1 JP Motorsport. McLaren falling down the order, terribly slow pit stop, but still comfortably in the lead of that subclass. Be one further lap after this one. You can see we've nearly counted down an hour of racing. But race leader Timo Bogoslawski, no pressure. Ah, well, there we go. We were looking for the contact that had 25 picking up a penalty. That was early in the race on Maxi Goetz. And also, that was a moment I don't think I'd noticed earlier on how Maxi lost it. Oh, we did. It was down at 180, wasn't it?
My comments at the point we watched that isn't what led to that penalty. It's up to the race director to determine himself. But it clearly was a move that compromised Max Goetz. He went off on the dirtier part of the racetrack as we see our race leader coming down, and he's on his way all the way out of Adelaide and making his way down to Nürburgring for the last time on a racing lap.
Neat, tidy, doesn't have to push too hard, but there is that element, John, always, you don't want to back off too much. Your concentration might just slip and you might make an error. Being close to 100% focus is what is required, but doesn't have to honestly look in his rearview mirror. No cars up ahead, no traffic to interrupt him. And now up to the Imola sweepers, Chateau d'Eau down towards the end of the lap, and victory.
I don't think he's seen another car in his, 25-minute stint.
No, that was the sketch from the start. He hoped that Raffaele Marcello would make a clean start. He did. Got clear at the front from pole position and continued to pull clear, and how he pulled clear. Sometimes 6-7 tenths of a second per lap to the good. But Timo Bogoslawski, exactly as he did at Brands Hatch, took over in the lead of the race and has continued to the checkered flag, which he can't see yet, but he can see now out of the final corner. Right and left, another win. That's 2 wins this year. Last year, the story for ACA ASP, as they were then, was promised but not the results. This year, they've already got 2 Sprint Cup wins from the 4 races so far. Brands Hatch got one here at Magny Cours. Time to kiss people in the garage before the cars that come 2nd, 3rd and 4th across the finish line make it to the close. That was the advantage.
So the Ferrari has held off Charles Fayette as they come through those final 2 corners, and a difficult day for the 32 Audi. They will be feeling we could have done a lot better. We could have had a lot more points had that first corner incident with Dries van Thor not occurred.
Well, don't forget, of course, off he went. Did at least manage to get that qualifying lap in. Good for 4th on the grid, which was remarkable. Looked though all was lost. And then suddenly at the first corner at the start of the race, it was lost, because out of the points, down to 14th overall, went Dries van Thor. The fact they've come up to 6th is testament to both of the drivers and also to Team WRT for another remarkable pit stop. Right. Pierre-Alexandre Jean, 5th place overall, has won the Silver Cup class, and Patrick Kropinski, coming down from Chateau d'Eau for the final time, should cross the line in 17th place. 2 more corners to go, but that will be good for victory in the Pro-Am class for the 111 McLaren from JP Motorsport. Hugo Delacour will come 2nd in the class, and Miguel Ramos, the 188 McLaren, which could have won that class, unfortunately off at the end of the first lap, extra pit stop, dropped to the tail of the field. But today it was all about the winner of race 2, Raffaele Marcello, who started from pole, made his car smaller and smaller as he escaped up the track. Soon, eventually, the chasers could no longer even see him. Handed over to Timo Bogoslawski, and victory in the end by 13.6 seconds. And on the adjusted times, the final order, you will see that Jim Pla has been moved up to 2nd place. He was 3rd on the track, but victory by 13.6 seconds went to Raffaele Marcello and to Timo Bogoslawski, who drove really well to bring it home. Jim Pla and Maxi Goetz, they started on second on the grid. They've ended up with driver penalties for Jean-Baptiste Simonin and Christopher Mies, dropping them from 2nd on the track to 4th. And Aurélien Panis and Patrick Niederhauser also penalised, but not by as much. So they rose from 4th on track to 3rd. Then Pierre-Alexandre Jean winning the Silver Cup class with Ulysses de Pauw, who kicked it off in the 53 Ferrari from AF Corsa. And for Charles Weerts and Dries van Thor, who were leading the combined championship and the Sprint Cup, have had a little bit of a championship setback, but still they got points for 6th place. It could, John, have been worse.
It could have been a lot worse, but the key is they got back into the points. Again, a great pit stop from the WRT Audi team to help drag them up through 2 or 3 other cars. But when they got up to 6th place, there was nothing they could do with the 53 Ferrari. So another position would have been good, but taking into account what occurred, they'll be happy with. There they are, 2 winners, and an excellent, outstanding job by Raffaele Marcello, ably and extremely well supported by Timo Bogoslawski, who really all he had to do was bring the car up. He had a pace in which he was running as quick as he needed to do without exposing himself to being closer to the limits.
Well, let's go down, because the winners are looking very pleased indeed. Timo Bogoslawski on the right and Raffaele Marcello on the left.
Boys, congratulations once again. On top of the podium, you could say that paints a perfect picture.
Yeah, as I said, car was amazing all the weekend. So, I mean, when the car is like this, then everything is much easier. So, yeah, big thanks to the team to make it possible in Brands Hatch and this weekend. So now, yeah, let's hope to continue like this in Zandvoort.
Absolutely. Well, you pulled out a massive margin, Timo. That's got to put a smile on your face.
Yeah, so that makes my life much easier as in the Brands Hatch. Yeah, I think finally, as I said before, so to everyone, we find a good setup for the car in this track, because we were struggling quite a lot compared to Audi or Lambo before. Yeah, now we are quite fast, and yeah, I hope we will keep this pace at the end of this season. So,
I think quite fast is an understatement. Congratulations, a fantastic win. Well done.
It certainly was. Thank you very much, Gemma. Hearing there from Raffaele Marcello and his co-driver Timo Bogoslawski. Timo very pleased indeed with that second win of the year. But it was just an exemplary drive. And let's go down though, because Gemma's working really hard, and the second place crew also from Acodis ASP. And let's hear from Jim Pla and Maxi Goetz.
Maxi, I'll come to you for second place. First weekend in the car this year. Fantastic drive, great result.
Yeah, so I'm happy for Jim and for the team. I think it's a top and a great result. P1 and P2, I think you could ask for more. But in the end, I was struggling a bit in my stint with tires, and I got a hit from behind. So in the end, it went well for us, and he did a great drive in the end and defending the position.
Absolutely, defending the position. Of course, the time penalties that others have suffered have helped a little bit, but that doesn't make any difference. That's called racing.
Yeah, for sure, it was nice. Thanks to Maxi for this weekend. He did a mega job. We were struggling until yesterday, but the guy in the team did an amazing job to get a good car for this morning, and he did P2, so it was much more easier than yesterday, then for sure. And yeah, in my seat, I just bring back the car. You know, I knew that it was 10-second penalty, so I didn't push so much. And yeah, thanks to him, thanks to the team, and see you in the next one.
Now we celebrate a bit.
It's an Acodis Sunday. Well done.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
It's great to see such happy faces down there, but they must be very pleased indeed. And there is Maxi Goetz early in the race, and unfortunately got pushed wide. And then at the end, it was Jim Pla chasing down the second place car. But as he said, he knew there was a 10-second penalty. No point taking a risk, John.
Absolutely not. Once that message had come through to the 88 car, then all Jim Pla had to do was keep his eyes on the mirror to ensure that he wasn't going to be challenged by Aurelio Spanos, but that never occurred. So it was a relatively comfortable second place at the end of this 1 hour race for Jim Pla.
And looking down towards the podium, which is back on the reverse side, the back side, if you will, of the main building on the pit lane. The Silver Cup winners, the AF Corsa Ferrari on the right-hand side of the shot, and the gold and black McLaren of JP Motorsport. They were the winners in the Pro-Am class. Patrick Kropinski bringing it home, and Christian Klein. But let's go down to the third place crew. Car number 25, they took a penalty, but Aurelien Panis and Patrick Niederhauser, good for third.
Aurelien, you love this circuit, I know that. It was an interesting stint, a bit of a time penalty in there as well.
Yeah, sure, we have to manage. I know, as my engineer told me at the radio, we have to manage the gap, but yeah, the car was just great. I'm happy, it's my first podium in GT World Challenge, so thank you to the team, thank you to this guy, because he was really quick. And yeah, it's just great.
Congratulations, well done, Patrick. A quick word from you. You know, Aurelien just said there, you were very quick, and you were the quickest Audi out there.
Yeah, but Aurelien was also very quick, so I think it's a great team effort at the end. I'm very happy. It's also my first podium in the sprint, so yeah, very happy day for all of us.
Thank you very much. Well done.
Thank you.
Well, job well done. Now let's take a look. And the start was absolutely crucial, because unfortunately the second row were away very slowly indeed, and this led to a problem. No problem for Marcello into the lead, but look, one of the challengers pushed the outside, none other than Dries van Tor, into the gravel. He went into the corner in 4th or 5th position and emerged by the time they got back to the track in 14th. It was almost over now. Contact right at the start of the race. Fred Vervisch giving a little bit more than a rub to the McLaren right in front of him. And again, Grand Corps drawing people in. That was Nicolas Baer coming back to terra firma by the time he got down to Estoril. But up front, it was Maxi Goetz holding on to that second place as Raffaele Marcello streaked away just in the top of the picture there. And then it got tough going down out of Nürburgring. Goetz lost a little bit of position, went back to third place, pushed back to 4th, and that would lead eventually to a 5-second penalty for contact caused by Patrick Niederhauser. And then at the top of the hill, contact cost us eventually the drive for Andrea Bertolini. Went back to the pits to the retire. One of the stars of the early stage of the race was the JP Motorsport McLaren, leading the Prime class in 6th overall, holding up a train of cars. And for Dries van Tor, having fallen down, came in from 10th place, having fallen to 14th. Early pit stop, and the Team WRT crew yet again were quick on the pit stop, and that moved the car post the stops up 4 positions to 6th. It advanced no further. They did their part. They also got the 33 car away quickly, but it pulled a little too quickly right into the path of one of those Garage 59 McLarens, and that would earn them a 10-second penalty. It would cost them an eventual 2nd position and drop them back to 4th overall. Silver Cup honours were going the way of the 53 Ferrari from AF Corsa. Ulysses de Pauw started, and then it was brought home very well indeed by Pierre-Alexandre Jean, who resisted everything that was thrown at him by Charles Weerts. Still 5-car pack down towards the tail of the field, fighting very, very hard indeed. But the checkered flag came out with a 13-second margin for Timo Boguslawski, and there comes the battle. The second car across the line would get a 10-second penalty. That would fall back, and that would promote the yellow-nosed Mercedes up to second place for an Acodis ASP 1-2 in the second race at Magny Cours. And now the calm before the podiums. And of course we've got the three classes. We've got the Pro Podium, we've got the Silver Cup Podium and the Pro-Am Podium, so you can see the cars down there. But the winning car is the blue, white, black Mercedes of Timo Boguslawski and of course his teammate Raffaele Marcello. Third place to the taller figure of Aurélien Panis and Patrick Niederhauser on the right for the Santalok Audi team. Second place to the second of the Acodis ASP Mercedes. Guesting driver Maxi Goetz there just on the podium, stepping down next to Jim Pla, who normally shares with Jules Gounon, but up comes Timo Boguslawski. 4 races this year, and that's 2 wins, followed by Raffaele Marcello, who really was just on supreme form at Magny Cours. And so their second victory, that puts them into the lead of the Sprint Club. And Fanatec GT just keeps on entertaining. Second place yesterday in the evening race and in the warmer conditions this afternoon. Victory that had been talk of the storm. So looking out from my commentary box, the sky is blue, a little bit of cloud. We have got away with it. And trophies from Pirelli. That's David De Lorenzi, head of the motorsport program. What a great advertisement for people who can keep their tyres sweet. And certainly Raffaele Marcello showed he can not only be quick, but he can keep his rubber very lively indeed. Before those pit stops, it was a 16-second margin. And, between first and second place. By the end, it didn't come down to 13. Timo Boguslawski didn't have to push too hard, but still was quicker than the best of the rest for much of his stint. And for Acodis ASP team, a French outfit headed by former racer Jérôme Policon. This will be a very proud day indeed. First and second on French turf, on home soil. And now the national anthem, the Marseillaise. And looking at the championship, they started the race with a 1.5 point deficit to Charles Weerts and Dries van Toor, but how things can turn around. One gravelly moment for Dries van Toor, and the difference is now 11.5 points in favour of Timo Boguslawski and Raffaele Marcello. But of course, this is the Sprint Cup, 5 Sprint Cup rounds, 10 races in all shared, with the 5 endurance races for the combined title. Early in the season to talk about that, I think would still find Dries van Toor and Charles Weerts lead that. But in the Sprint Cup, a very, very tidy lead for Timo Boguslawski, who's just getting a load of champagne down his neck, and for Raffaele Marcello. So a huge pleasure for them in an afternoon, in fact, a whole meeting in which they have been the class of the field. We came here thinking the Audis would be strong. They were strong in practice, but they took last night's victory. But in a clean, straight fight, the Mercedes looked absolutely mighty this afternoon at Magny Cours. Don't forget, of course, we'll be following podiums for the Silver Cup for the younger drivers and for the Pro-Am pairings. Precisely that, a pro driver with an amateur driver as well. But the standard was set by Timo Boguslawski and Raffaele Marcello for Acodis ASP team. It was great to see team boss Jérôme Policon up on the podium. Didn't have too many podiums when he was racing in Formula 3000 in his single-seater days, but now he's got so much pleasure. And Acodis ASP, you've heard the name, they're up into third place on the podium there in the Silver Cup class. That's it's the 87 crew of Casper Stevenson who started, and Thomas Drouet, Thomas on the right side of the screen. The second place in class, a Tempto with their Audi squad, Alex Arkinaka and Nicolas Scholl, and the victors. They're having quite a season for AF Corsa with their Ferrari. It's Pierre-Alexandre Jean and Ulysses de Pauw, the taller figure, the Belgian, going to the top step, but they are setting a remarkable pace to have a Silver Cup runner that's won a race outright in the Sprint Cup. And today, the fact at the end of the race they were resisting Charles Weerts in absolutely astonishingly good Team WRT Audi. So a lot of pride for AF Corsa. Silver Cup victory here at Magny Cours. And Pirelli France, good to see Pauline Jabot, Human Resources, Pirelli France handing out the trophies. And for young Casper Stevenson on the right step, another one of these really promising teenagers. Youngest driver up there on the podium. There's a really good buzz in the paddock at Magny Cours. It's been an absolutely packed race meeting. Still 2 more races to go on an agenda that ended last night at about 11:15. But Ulysses de Pauw raises the winner's trophy in the Silver Cup. 5th place again, but victory in the Silver Cup. And the crew on the left-hand side of the podium, that's the 99 crew from SRO Motorsport, also pushing very hard with their Audis. That's Alex Arke and his teammate, the Austrian driver Nicolas Schurl. So it's been a great meeting. We thought there might be a storm to end this, but the real storm was Storm 88. Sorry, Storm 89. They were 88 last year. So the winners, Italian national anthem for AF Corsa. So that is the end of meeting from Magny Cours. Thank you for joining us for the Fanatec GT action. So now, as we just look at the Silver Cup standings, it's Pierre-Alexandre Jean and Ulysses de Pauw, 3 class wins out of 4 events. No wonder they are so far clear. Thomas Drouet, Casper Stevenson, 3rd today. They are 2nd in the championship. Just a whisker ahead of the team that finished 2nd today, Nicolas Schurl and Alex Arke. Still waiting, though, for the 3rd and final podium after the 2nd of the 2 Fanatec GT sprint races here at Magny Cours. And that, of course, will be for the Pro-Am runners. And there was a car that was presented. It was 6th on the grid, was looking very good indeed, and with the rival car that was starting just 1 row behind, falling off on that opening lap, possibly given a bit of a push. In fact, it was pushed twice before they'd even got to the first corner. That was the 188 McLaren. It suddenly made life a whole lot easier, and in fact that 188 McLaren did come through, did advance to get that 3rd place. They'll be looking a little bit disappointed. Miguel Ramos and Dean McDonald. 2nd place, the number 21 Ferrari crew from AF Corsa, Ugo Delacour and Cedric Spirazzuoli. But the winners this afternoon, Christian Klein, who started, there he is coming out, the Austrian racer, ex-Formula 1 driver, and in behind, the Polish racer, Patrick Krapinski, JP Motorsport, and it's McLaren for them, as it was for the crew on the right-hand side. So McLaren, Ferrari, McLaren was the order in Pro-Am, and certainly you can see that Christian Klein's looking happy with life, gesticulating, applauding people up on the podium, applauding the crew chief from JP Motorsport as well. But you have to feel for... It could have been a real challenge for victory if the 188 crew hadn't been thumped up the back by, I think it was Fred Verviche on the run to the first corner. They were battling as the first few rows really compressed. But the trophies are being handed out, and I think we should just have enough time. See the winners' trophies. There it goes to the winning team. And then for the drivers we've mentioned before, Christian Klein and Patrick Krapinski for JP Motorsport and McLaren. Their car is the gold-roofed, black-flanked McLaren on the left of the image. They're the drivers on the top step, and they're the drivers on the top step of the Pro-Am Championship, clear by 11.5 points from Ugo Delacour and Cedric Spirazzuoli. The last national anthem of the Fanatec GT podium. And that's all from us. Thank you very much for joining. Do watch races later this year. Next stop, Zandvoort.